controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Monday. This is the 21st day of September 2020. And welcome to the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. So that clip that was shared by our PC Brian. This is that night. Do you remember the 21st night of September?
That is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yep.
Voila.
They were reminding us about this night.
Yes.
It was an epic one.
It was epic. It was epic. So, how are you?
Me? I'm fine, thank you.
Hey,
How
you
are you?
look radiant
Why?
and everything else.
Why, thank you.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
What did they do?
Who? Who? Now so them find me, I beg. Now so them find me.
That's what them find you. So, City, what do you suppose that means? They found her, they didn't find her.
Oh, I am very, very clear about what happened. So what you said.
How are you, City?
I am very well, thank you.
Hey,
morning.
this one.
your shirt,
Today's
man,
shirt,
today.
my friend.
My goodness. Omo.
Even Uhuru would be jealous.
I don't even know how to say it in English. You shine, so taste star, not fit look you.
Oh, thank you very much. I told you you'd understand. You see, is it difficult to understand what you just said? That one is easy to understand. This is
And
how
you
to
agree.
distinguish between cotton material
You were just hiding the shirt under the jacket.
and
Cotton material and cushions.
bus, and your brother.
Usiongee mbaya na ni, please.
Oh no, I'm simply saying that some of these fabrics have versatility. It can sit on your shoulders, or you can sit on them.
You can sit on them. In some cases, you can even cover yourself with them.
Actually, the alternatives are many. I'm simply saying that these fabrics that are attributed to the craftsmanship of Africans, they are multi-purpose.
Completely. It's a very beautiful shirt.
Thank you, sir.
The president should see this.
You want me to be a subject of an executive order? Where?
Buy your shirt and Naiva next week.
Shika double.
Yes,
You need to respect your elder.
surely.
Then tell him,
Respect your elders.
then tell him, say, I'm actually older than
I'm older than you.
I'm actually older than you, but nonetheless, I get the point.
I understand.
Right.
And how are you, Eric?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good.
The weekend just flew by.
I know. It was Friday and then you blinked twice and voila, here we are.
Man. You don't even get a moment to yourself.
No?
No. It's just gone. Just like that. No sooner
Then.
No sooner than.
Wow. It even has sound effect.
than pam pam pam.
In Dolby Sound.
Surround. And glorious
You know,
technical.
this surround thing, you really technically, you really must understand it. I had never known what it meant until I went to, and I've told you this story before. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I don't remember the story. Just tell us the story.
No. Tell the story.
Go to the story.
You haven't told us the story
City,
before.
no, you have not.
I have. There's this
That
cinema.
was an us.
It's called Cinemax. Built Nyeri, Mombasa. I was living in Mombasa then.
You didn't tell us the story.
And-
But anyway, carry on.
Yes. And I went to watch a movie. And what took me there was not the movie itself. Huh? No, not really.
It was the company.
Company, yes, but they advertised the sound system so much so, okay? Then I figured, let me see. And so I was sitting there watching, and it was a World War II movie, Okay? It was called Pearl Harbor. Then at some point, there were these planes that started flying. Now, the angle of the camera was such that, Haki, there was this plane which was heading towards me. Kabisa, yani I could see it here.
You were in Pearl Harbor.
No, I ducked. What? The company I was with have never laughed so much in their lives. So what are you doing?
The plane was coming.
I mean, you were being crushed.
And the sound.
No, that.
And it passed. And you could actually just tell.
You actually sense as though it just passed over your head. Then I said, man. Then I was told, like, that is not the sound was the noise. I said, that one was 3D. I said, oh. So that's 3D with surround.
Bus.
See, the concept now had landed. I now understood.
Literally.
Yes, and I never went back there again.
That was it.
I'm not going to
You
be
were
having my
done.
life threatened like that. No. And I'm going to watch a movie.
City said no.
You're going for entertainment. Then there you are.
Bana, huh?
Heart is in your mouth.
Bana, and here your
Surely.
life is being threatened. Surely.
Never again.
Nope.
Welcome to the show, anyway. This beautiful Monday morning. Today, we will have various interesting conversations. This month, the month of September, is some significant month. It's a month to celebrate Alzheimer's and
Dementia.
right? And we'll be discussing that. I mean, when you talk about those two conditions, Alzheimer's and dementia, first of all, what's the distinction between each, one and the other?
Often the term is used interchangeably, really. Yes.
Alzheimer's, they say, is a form of dementia.
Yes.
It's a form of.
It's one kind of dementia.
What other kinds
Dementia
do we know?
takes on different kinds.
At every stage of that disease, there is the likelihood that at some point it may simply halt there, likely, but not very likely. And then when it advances, then it gets to the point where it is argued that, you've heard of, you're talking about Alzheimer, what about Parkinson's? Parkinson's disease refers to the same disease as well. But like most things, remember, when something is named after a person, because clearly it's someone's name, the reference is to someone who made a breakthrough in understanding that particular condition better than other people.
Yep.
Yes. Not that it's the person who had it the most. No. This is the person whose work enabled people to understand the disease a lot more. But this is often common even with procedures. Okay? Like pasteurization. It's named after Louis Pasteur. Have I pronounced it correctly?
You're very good, actually. Well done, Titi.
Okay, yes. This guy was clearly French, and he's the one who understood that milk being milk, for it to for you to make it last, there's certain processes you must. So that process was named after him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he named it.
If you
Your Excellency, you're correct.
He just decided this one is mine.
it's mine, Sam Darus, without me, would you have understood it?
It's called me.
It's like the Mutudo laws.
How so very apt.
They're
Very,
not
very
laws against Mutudo.
No, but this is the man who made them popular.
Yeah.
But you know something? The person who actually began that crusade was was it called Kaguthi or Koguthi?
Joseph Kaguthi.
That is the man who actually began that actual crusade. So they ought to have been the Kaguthi laws. But I think Mutudo at that time, I think, was MP for
Naivasha.
Yes. And he
was in parliament. He brought in
waged
the
a
law.
war. Yes, and he brought the bill. And so it was named after him.
That created this agency that Kaguthi then headed.
Yes.
Oh, it worked well for both.
It worked well for both of them.
Yeah. So let's begin where we always begin. Fellow Kenyans.
Fellow Kenyans and Africans and the world. Well, let's start in Kenya for now. 152 new infections on Sunday. The country has posted less than 200 cases on a daily basis since August. And this is largely attributed to the Ministry of Health's low testing capacity due to lack of reagents. So the new cases recorded yesterday were confirmed against 2,224 samples taken. And 110 patients, according to Cabinet Secretary of Health, Mutai Kagwe, 110 patients had been discharged after recovering, raising recovery so far to 23,887. With the new infections, this takes Kenya's tally to 36,981. 2 more patients succumbed So that's an additional 2 deaths, taking the numbers to 648. Okay? That's what's happening in Kenya. Let's take a look at what's happening around the world. A lot of countries are entering what they are calling the second wave across board, from Canada to the United States to Spain, France, the UK. Not talking too much about this right now, but a lot of the countries in the West talking about the second wave. And China had that conversation sometime, but that seems to be dead in the water now. In the United States now, 7 million cases, 7,4,768 cases, with now over the 200,000 mark, 204,118 dead in the US. India also suffering quite high numbers, 5,485,612 cases so far, 87,909 deaths in India, and the cases continue to rise. India has conducted 63,661,000 tests. Brazil is also high up there with 4,544,000 cases. Russia now with 1.1 million, and Colombia, Peru, and Mexico with 765, 762, and 697,000 cases, respectively. And so we are looking at more cases in the Western countries, France, the UK, Italy, Germany, Canada, which also saw the lowest number of cases that they had seen over a 2-month period. However, they've seen a spike most recently where they have, embraced this and dubbed this the second wave. It was interesting because we also saw a report of some Kenyans in Canada who had gone quickly and wanted to come back. But a lot of the consulates now have closed, and because of that, they will not be able to come back until probably next year. So you see that what they're calling the second wave has then now made them close down offices they had reopened and such institutions that they had reopened in the last couple of months. Second wave, a global thing, we don't know. The numbers still continue to rise in different countries around the world. So this is what we are looking at. Also,
Is it accompanied by a rise in death as well? When you talk about a surge in infections?
No, interestingly enough, no. Because when they look at this, look at the countries that talked about a surge in the last, France, Spain, the death toll did not rise the way we saw it when they were initially recording these high numbers of cases. So the deaths they were looking at were between 1 and 15, whereas you would see 600, 700 dying in one day. But nowhere near that now. Okay?
Uganda.
Okay, so let's look at Uganda, who we know also has now given reports in terms of how they're going to open up the economy.
Uganda.
You know what you did, Eric.
If they can call it Mijingo.
The G is pronounced as it's written G, not J.
If Ugandans called Mijingo.
Okay,
So we call their country Uganda.
okay, so it's reciprocity. Okay, good.
Okay.
So Uganda, with a total of 6,287 cases, has 63 deaths, and they carried out a total number of 451,737 tests in the country, and so they were looking at, well under 2% of their population having
gotten to death.
So they're opening up slowly. Schools are reopening with only a certain number of students going back to school. Those in the final years, whether it's in primary or in secondary, and those who were to sit exams will be the ones going back to school. And they're opening up churches and places of worship, and sportsmen and women opening up sports activities and facilities, slowly opening up while taking precaution, as it were. They've done very well. We have to just, doff our hats, whether we like it or not. They've done very well in terms of containing this.
But markets still closed.
Markets still closed. Yeah, they did. But it would be interesting if they did not do what they had done. Probably would have seen large numbers of COVID-19 cases in Uganda. But they did manage the situation very well in terms of curbing the spread of it. And now opening up their skies, opening up international airports, allowing tourists to come back in, So, hey, let's see what happens.
What I find interesting is when we talk about the second wave, I actually ask myself, what do you mean second wave? And let me explain why I ask myself that question. Because what comes out of Europe or the Western world is a very hit and miss approach. Clamp down, open up. Clamp down, open up. Clamp down in certain sectors. Face masks, no face masks. Social distance, forget about it. I mean, so it's a mixed approach. So this second wave that we talk about, is it that we are going to have the number of those who are infected higher than we've ever had them before? Are they going to be at the same level? Because that level has also fluctuated, but when it's shut down, the level goes down. When the country is opened up, the level goes up.
What is your understanding of the second wave?
My understanding of it, unfortunately, borders on conspiracy theory. Because to me, it's like people who don't really understand what's going on trying to explain it in terms that they understand. Here you have a pandemic, and there's a likelihood of the infection spreading to the point where other people who had not been factored into the equation when we are talking numbers now get infected, so the numbers are greater. But there is a sinister element to it. Those who had previously been infected and had become well, now getting infected again. That to me is what would comprise
A second wave.
the core component of a second wave, in my thinking.
Well, look at what happened in China. We had a couple of people who had recovered completely from COVID and then got reinfected and had to go test. And according to China, this is what they thought would be the second wave. Whereas in the Western countries of Italy, Spain, France even, what they saw as a second wave was a high number after having achieved really low numbers in comparison to what happened in the first instance. So these numbers came very low. You know, they were not recording high. Hospitals now were empty, as it were. And then after some time,
You have
the
a new
cases went
surge.
through
Yes,
the
but
roof.
then they had summer.
Yeah, they had summer, and that's true. You have to understand that right now they're going into they're in the fall months. Very
They're going
soon
to autumn.
they're in the fall months already.
Yes.
They'll be going into winter in
Yes.
a very short period of time.
And guaranteed, because if you're talking about flu-like symptoms and
They will
disease,
come.
They come during
Yeah.
winter. So summer opened up the countries, these countries you speak of. People went on holiday, people went to their favorite destinations, and they were not observing any of the rules that had previously been mentioned as the rules you require to keep COVID at bay.
That's the thing.
So this second wave we speak of, was it that more people got infected as a result? Because a lot of the infections, remember, on the return back home, people would get tested. Lo and behold, this person was not positive when they left, but they're now
But
positive.
now they are positive as they come back. Something to keep looking at and trying to understand. 18 minutes after 6, it's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Our live stream is up on www.spicefm.co.ke and Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Time for us to look at the skies and see the weather forecast for the day, and then we'll be back.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
Experiencing clear skies in Nairobi at the moment at 13 degrees. It's going to go to a high of 25 today and lows of 12. Clear skies at the moment and a chance of showers later this Monday morning. Let's take a look into Nakuru, where it's clear at 13. Experiencing thunderstorms later is what the forecast says. Highs of 23 and lows of 13. Nyeri is mostly cloudy at 14 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 13. Thunderstorms also forecasted for this town. Eldoret, clear skies at 13 degrees, highs of 20 and lows of 12, also with thunderstorms in the forecast. Let's take a look into Kisumu, where it's mostly cloudy at 19 degrees, highs of 27 and a chance of rain later, coming down again to lows of 19. Partly cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 16 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 16, with showers expected later. Clear skies in Mombasa at the moment, going into partly cloudy conditions at 23. We'll go to highs of 29 today. Let's take a look into Malindi, where it's partly cloudy at 24, going to highs of 28, coming back down to lows of 24. It's 19 degrees and mostly cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27 and lows of 19, with expected showers later on. 22 degrees and clear skies in Dar es Salaam for the moment. We expect patchy clouds later. We'll see though, and the fog should be quite low for most parts of the morning in Dar, with highs of 30 and coming down to lows of 22. It's clear skies and warming up quite significantly in Joburg, 17 degrees at the moment. We'll go to highs of 27 and down to lows of 9. Scattered thunderstorms being experienced across Lagos, 30 degrees at the moment. This will be the high for the day. We'll come down to lows of 23. Let's go east, where Beijing is mostly sunny at 23 degrees well into the afternoon Monday. Highs of 28 and lows of 16 today. And back west into London is 15 degrees, highs of 25, and expected to be a foggy day when Big Ben tolls. Paris is clear at 16 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 12. And we'll finish things off this morning in New York, where it's still Sunday night. However, we will see highs of 30 and lows of 17 today. Partly cloudy conditions at the moment.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice
All right,
up your
23
life.
minutes after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let us begin. Before we look at the headlines, let's begin with today's proverb.
Today's proverb is actually a Kenyan proverb. It is short, brief, simple, and easy to understand. Do not follow a person who is running away.
Okay.
not-
In fact, I like that proverb. Just leave them, I beg. It's true. I like it. To me, it has landed. It's like that plane that was chasing you in the cinema.
Preach,
It has
preacher.
landed.
Now, that plane wanted to crash on me. Yes, but I ducked in time.
All right.
Do not chase after a person who's running away.
No, don't follow. This person who is actually running away, don't. I read this thing, and the thing that came to my mind is, how do you distinguish someone who is running away and someone who's running towards something? I'm still trying to resolve it.
They're running away from you and running away
Or running away
towards
from
something.
something or running towards something. How do you distinguish? How do you differentiate? Anyway, just sharing my thoughts on this particular saying.
There'll be some context, I'm sure. If they were with you and then they just started running away without any explanation, then you just assume that they're running away from you. Or if they were running towards something, then
If you're standing and you see someone running,
if you're standing and you're seeing someone running, just leave them. Those ones are not running
in
away
the
from
city
you.
of
They're
Nairobi,
running away from
if
somebody
I'm
else.
standing somewhere and then I see someone running, then somebody follows, I'm going to run in that direction.
It's a very interesting Nairobi concept, by the way.
After 100 meters, then I'll stop and
It's
look
not just
behind
a
and
Nairobi
ask,
concept.
and
It
ask,
is
okay,
a global concept.
okay,
You've seen
guys.
these social experiments in videos on social media.
Yeah, just start
Yes.
running.
Yeah, people just start running.
Why
Whoop.
are you running?
Why
Then
are you
ask-
running? Why are you running?
and you're still running, by the way. Why are we running?
What's going
You, if you like, don't run.
Okay.
All right, so let's look at the headlines. Where do you want to start?
Well, okay, it's on both pages of these two dailies today.
Eh.
Reopening schools. But let's look at what it says on The Nation. Reopening of schools a nightmare for parents. Caught flat-footed by the government's decision to reopen schools next month. And this is the thing, it's saying it, I think we've all assumed that it's going to happen. It's still from the ministry, it still could might. However, people have said, okay, it's going to happen. Parents are staring at a mountain of bills amid reduced incomes and massive job losses. Barely hanging on due to the negative impacts of the pandemic, they will be required to dig deeper into their pockets to prepare children to report back to school in the middle of the month. Many have exhausted their savings, and the sudden change of plans has left them exposed. And we talked about this a little bit last week. And for parents, you told them they were going to open in January. So everybody did a factory reset and went to January. This is when we're going back to school. I need to prepare for then. And then in the middle of it all, you tell them there's a possibility that you could go back in October. The task force is meant to hand over a report on resumption of studies to the CS Magoha today. Schools are expected to open on October 19th, specifically, while Standard 8 and Form 4 learners will sit their national exams in April 2021 if the government adopts proposals by a committee appointed by Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha. The committee also recommends that schools' calendar be revised to allow the year to begin in June instead of the usual January to November cycle, and the learners will not repeat classes as it had been announced earlier. So there's so many things that seem to be still up in the air at the moment.
Too much.
Everything is just
too much up in the air. And if you
Yeah.
just look at the reports, especially in the papers in the last, say, 2 weeks, right? All of them, just matter of speculation. For
It's all
example, this one,
speculation till now.
in the standard, teachers may be recalled this week. They may be recalled as early as this Wednesday. Surely, if teachers were to be recalled, then they are just going to be recalled. We are
Just
talking
like
about
that.
Monday
Yeah.
and saying teachers may be recalled as early as Wednesday. Which is which?
What is it? That's the thing. And interesting.
Why can't you just have clarity? Teachers will
Folks,
be recalled on
I
Wednesday.
need you to go a little easy on this. There's consistency here.
All
That's
right.
exactly what I was about to say. From the very beginning when it came to education, it has always been, is it or is it not? The only thing we knew was that schools were closed. That was it. We talked about this here, and it was, okay, so has the Cabinet Secretary said?
Has he
What
not?
has he not said? Are they going to test? Are they not going to test? Are they going to come back to school? So there's consistency. That it has always been confusing.
It has, hasn't it? No, it
But
is.
also, I sometimes ask myself, is it two different narratives or many different narratives that just keep popping out because of the lack of clarity from the ministry, or is it that the ministry has been clear, but then people are still trying to force through a story, a narrative? The ministry has said we are not going to reopen until we know, until we announce that we are reopening, and then now we start going into there's a committee that has been formed, and that committee may propose.
And we
This
have
and the
inside
other.
information as to what the committee is
And the
discussing.
committee is likely to give its recommendation to say, surely, what are you saying?
Nothing.
Actually, I would consider, if we were to go by the history of recent occurrences that are COVID related, that what you're saying lends itself to the truth more than any other narrative in this sense. Okay? What do? There's something that needs to be done, and it is a good thing. But how do we twist this thing so that it's financially beneficial? Suddenly, desks. Wait, this water provision and the ability. Somehow we are going back to a centralized system where everything has to be centralized. Then you're being told local fundis may apply to whom? How? Okay, how do they get this information? Is the information again consistent? Do they know this? All right. Then you're talking. The only clarity we have here is one on face masks. Rivertex will make face masks. Okay, that one we've gotten. How is it going to be distributed?
Yeah.
How will we know? First of
How
all,
will we know that
yes,
each pupil
when you're
has
talking
received-
about equipment of this nature, schools will have to have storage capacity. How will you confirm that all these schools that you're talking about, and there are many, have the storage capacity? And when I say storage capacity, I mean safe storage capacity. You have storage capacity that is so daunting, you might as well leave those things out in the open. Okay? So, these are questions that nobody wants to address or nobody wants to respond to, but it seems to be heading towards the direction that other COVID issues have headed before.
So make it grey, leave it confusing so that
Yes.
it leaves up all opportunities open.
Then you're told the government has said that this is what you are all going to do. And you ask the question, all right, why don't you issue an edict of that nature and say, folks, given where you come from, how can this be best operationalized? Because believe me, people who live in those areas know how these things can be done.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
live there, for heaven's sake. Even if there isn't sufficient water, they know how they survive. How do they do it? There must be a way in which they do it. Have we heard of a government plan to say dig boreholes in certain parts
In
of the country?
schools.
Have we heard of such a program?
Nothing like
We
that.
haven't heard of such a program. You know, the equipment to contain the water to use, that is a small matter.
That's a small matter. The source of the water
The
is
source of the
something
water
more
is the
important.
issue.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
small matter. The water has to be there.
Yeah.
Yes, I was about to say the water has to be there in person. Then I-
It's okay. This one can even walk.
So again, one doesn't hear that. But what one hears, unfortunately, does not encourage one to build their confidence on what has been planned.
Unfortunately
no,
not.
unfortunately, it doesn't.
And from just what the outcry is that I see a lot of folks holding their children back, just to say, what, we don't even know what's going on here. But this week there is this national conference that's happening. It would be nice if there was one voice and it said very clearly and plainly, this is what we have, this is what is going to happen, this is the status. Period. Not if, ands, buts, or maybes. Doesn't help anybody.
Indeed, that's true. Remember, the live stream is up. We have people who are already watching us on social media platforms, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Listening from Mombasa CBD's Isaiah Ombura, and from Westlands Sarit Center, Godfrey Isaac Mackenzie. Good morning to you. Joroge Wakiboy in, and Simon Villa Olekasasi Ndani, my addiction. Thank you very much for always being among the first to tune in, Simon. And then today's photo, actually. Who's that man? Who is that man? Just look at Spice FM KE on Twitter and Facebook. Hey!
Tell us who's the guy.
Hey!
Man, these lookalikes are really lookalikes.
There's a
aren't they?
CT Muga. It's just that look. Look is look, Vera. Look is look.
It's called 1,000-mile stare.
Bas.
Come on.
So let's take a look at traffic and then we'll be back.
Okay, a
Traffic.
little bit of hold up right around Roy Sambu today. Unfortunately, there is a body in the middle of the road, and crowds have formed around that. It's affecting traffic already. We know that there were some gunshots that were being heard earlier in the morning around that area. So you want to approach with caution. Take it easy if you can. Outbound on Thika Road today, there is some traffic, and inbound as well. Everybody getting back into the city today. Same thing in Westlands, moving along so slowly today, bumper to bumper already on some parts of Uhu Highway. Getting into the CBD from Westlands is going to take you a quick minute today, or rather a slow minute in that case. It will not be as smooth as you expect. Mombasa Road is looking good today as you get through. We know that there will be heightened levels of traffic again for the next couple of weeks or more because of the construction taking place on the expressway, guys. So it's gonna need some patience. It's going to need you to take some forward planning in order to get through. Industrial area is still going to be a mess because that road is still closed because of construction. We'll take a look and see what that looks like in a short while. But for now, it doesn't look too bad. It'll clog up, though. We know that. We'll let you know where and how in a short while.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right,
Mornings
24 minutes.
done right.
Of course,
94.
we'll have to have any of the big names somewhere. If not Raila, it's Ruto, or if then in some cases both. The standard Raila Ruto clash over the hustle tag and the BBI. And then the nation, Ruto, the man on a cleansing mission. From launching an anti-graft crusade against his own government to building an altar in his Nairobi home, giving arms and speaking up for the less privileged in the society, the hustler-in-chief is taking the meaning of image is everything axiom to a new level in his bid for the presidency in 2022. He says, Jesus himself said in the book that it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Which book?
One of those books.
Where Jesus spoke to. So what was it? Podcast?
It's on the podcast.
Or Jesus spoke to Pocket? Or, for all you know, Jesus was on WhatsApp. What is the other one? Erasmus. What is the real name of Erasmus?
Instagram.
Yes.
So this hustler story is just too much too much. Anyway, there's a story on page 7 of The Standard that says Uhuru Ruto differences have been taken to court in a new twist. This is about a case that has been taken to court by two petitioners who are arguing that the Interior CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, is junior to the DP Ruto and therefore cannot head the National Development Implementation and Communication Committee. They have taken the issue of Executive Order number 1 of 2019 to court. This executive order, remember, is the one that creates some technical committees and organizes the government and says that Dr. Matiang'i is to head the National Development Implementation and Communication Committee. They aver that the derogation of the role of the deputy president and the grant of his powers to other officers violates the constitution. It purports to derogate the role of the deputy president to deputize the president. They are saying the principal assistant to the president is the deputy. And if you have an executive order that then brings in somebody else to appear to be coordinating government functions, to appear to be doing the job of deputy president, then that is against the constitution. The people who have taken this to court are two law students, David Shiori and Daniel Muthengi.
You know, it's interesting. When this space was opened up, there's no telling what it was going to actually produce. And here is a perfect example of... Remember, last week we had with us two very eminent Kenyans who were talking to us about a certain petition they had taken to court. Now we have another group of people who have taken another petition to court. But what is of interest here is that with each of these cases, we now get to understand in details what the law actually says. Some would argue an interpretation of it, but that's the whole point of having a court.
Yep.
And if you don't agree with that particular interpretation, you take it to a higher court, where there is more than one person who then will give you their interpretation of it. Exactly. And if you don't agree with that particular group, you go to an even larger group of people who they'll give you, but all good. All good.
This one will be interesting. Let's see what the courts say on this, whether by with this executive order, which still recognizes the office of the president and the deputy and the president and the deputy president, but gives some functions to some cabinet secretaries and all, whether it's actually derogating the powers
But Eric,
and functions of the deputy president.
The powers of the president, if you ask me, are operationalized in the various ministries that we have.
Yeah.
The president is not in charge of any ministry. Well, neither is the deputy. So, as a layman, of course, how then do you dilute something which in and of itself cannot really be diluted, because your position guarantees that yours is oversight with some authority, right? But if I read what I've just read and I believe it as it is, it's like saying that there were powers that were given or inherent in certain positions, and that those powers are now being taken away. In that case, then I would argue, what are these powers, for instance, then? Because you're deputizing the president, because it's the president who has the power that for you to deputize.
Yeah.
So what are these powers that the president has that are now being diluted? That's the question I would ask. I would just ask. I don't have a response.
Don't
to
have a
it.
response to us.
Okay.
No.
Let's see what the court say.
Okay. So, it's on national news, but having female friends makes males live longer. Just give me a minute. It's an analysis that was done on baboons, corresponding with human studies that show keeping friends of the opposite sex can be as important for longevity as losing weight and exercising. Having close bonds with the opposite sex can have non-romantic benefits, not just for humans, but also for their primate cousins, according to a new research done in Kenya. Again, it's in national news. The study done
It's a
after
big one, yes.
It is. The study done after an analysis, after analyzing data for 35 years on more than 540 baboons in Amboseli National Park, found that male baboons that have a close female friend have higher rates of survival than those who don't. Take note, CT
So
and
friend,
Eric.
friend, not partner. Just
No, friends.
buddy.
Yes.
Platonic.
Yes.
Not with benefits.
Without benefits, no
So
strings.
these baboons just had a pal.
Yeah, and
And
they
then-
lived longer. A friend, you hang out, chill, tell stories. Researchers have often assumed that when a male is friendlier to certain females, it is for the reproductive perks, to protect its offspring or to boost its chances of mating. But the new study points out to an additional potential benefit of female friends helping males live a longer life. I've been saying this all along. The team's findings have been published in a special issue of the journal Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society B. It is titled Social Bonds, Social Status and Survival in Wild Baboons, A Tale of Two Sexes. The researchers said it is well known that people who have close friendships are more likely to live a long life than those who don't. Many humans show that making and keeping friends can be as important for longevity as losing weight and getting exercise. In the last decade, the researchers said similar patterns have been found in animals ranging from monkeys and horses to dolphins and killer whales. However, they noted most of this research has focused on females, whereas males are more of a mystery. The reason is that in most social mammals, females typically spend their entire lives in the same group, while males come and go, leaving researchers with only a partial snapshot of their lives. So this data was collected after research of 35
years
on just male baboons, and this is what they found.
And how did they define friend here?
Friend, you didn't have any...
companion.
No.
It was just a companion. It was a companion.
Meaning someone you're seen with more than others.
Yes. Or
Is
somebody
it
that
is
you
it
would
one
be
friend
with
or
more
is
than-
it?
No, it's friends.
So the
It's
more
plural.
female friends you have, the longer
your
your
life.
Yeah.
I know where you're going with it, so just stop it.
No. I'm not talking about friends with benefits. I'm basically just looking at platonic friendship.
Yeah, sure, exactly. And this is what they said.
So
Because
what
if you're
you're
talking about
saying is-
one, then this is, you can say, then your spouse is your friend. So as long as you are married, then you are also in that box.
Not
Or are you
necessarily,
saying that
because
in
you have
addition to your spouse, having other female friends,
Yeah,
close
because
friends?
Note this research is that the male baboons that they looked at had the one that they procreated with already.
Okay.
Okay? But these are the ones, that's why it took them so long
Are
to do
baboons
this.
monogamous?
No, they're not like
Okay.
no. But it was the ones that they
They have a clear understanding of life.
The ones that they hang out with their friends, they did not get into any kind of sexual relationship with. You get? They would just hang out. That's what they said. That's
No,
why
no.
it took them so long to study this.
Yes. So,
Right?
okay.
They were just friends. I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. In other words, you need to live long.
So there's a baboon, and there's a group of females, and there's some females that this baboon will not mate with,
Yes, didn't mate with.
When they are watching.
but they are buddies.
They're friends.
When they are watching.
You could say that for humans too.
That's where I'm heading. But you see, you can't bring that discussion to human, because if you start talking about a
Because
man,
they say that
male,
the baboons are the humans' closest
male,
cousins.
those are people who clearly have relatives in that particular sphere. It's all right, it's okay. But what I'm saying is, if you consider taking that analogy and ask yourself, if this was studied down among men, and you're saying men who have very many female friends, and it's platonic, you'd smile and say they do, okay, female friends, many.
Platonic.
Yes, and
It's
there's-
possible.
and
Isn't
there's
it? Yeah.
Many. Okay,
It's possible.
of course it is.
For
Just
example, like, you look at the circles, work colleagues, or maybe this one is,
People you meet at church.
yeah,
Okay,
and your friends.
of course. People in Bible study.
Note that since 1971, researchers have followed these individual baboons in southern Kenya on a daily basis.
That's more than 35 years.
It's more than, but you see now the data that they have collected is within now. That they just started watching, but then now, the 35
I'm
years.
certain that if one read the reports tend to be more comprehensive, and of course there'll be the definition of what they mean by friend. There'll be other things that are clarified.
Yeah.
So I will leave that matter there.
He's not convinced.
Oh no! I am convinced that baboons live longer when they have female friends. That I am convinced.
That are you convinced?
I'm convinced.
I think it's a very important finding.
I think so.
It's a very, very important finding.
The connection between this and human beings. I will need to read that report, and I'm sure the queries that are sort of like running amok in my mind
Put to rest.
will be resolved. Yes.
Okay.
12 minutes to 7. It's a situation room. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, other headlines, City.
Okay.
Your favorite, the business paper.
My favorite, the building. It is my favorite for many reasons. They seem to pick on headlines that other people don't even probably touch on. And when other people touch on them, it's on page 6, 7, 8, or it's closer to the obituaries. All right? KQ rejects master's degree push for its boss in nationalization bill.
All right.
The bill had demanded that if someone is to be the CEO of Kenya Airways, they must have a master's degree. KQ said, Apana,
Who in KQ now is saying this?
my friend.
The board,
Yes.
the current CEO.
Yes. Board. See, they take you. They said, no.
It's not a must.
No,
Imagine it's
one
not a
degree is sufficient. And I agree with you completely. That's why I picked on it. Because when you think of education, or higher education as we call it, sometimes it's overemphasized. And for the simple reason that people don't understand that higher learning is actually, yes, apart from educating you, it's supposed to actually open your mind. It's the experience of being in that institution. The experience more than anything else. And that's why when people get their degrees, you're told that you're given power to read and all that pertains to it. Meaning it's like, folks, now that we've opened up your mind, continue opening it up. But if you look at any qualification you have, think about it. How much of the knowledge that you actually acquire do you actually ever use? It's really a tiny fraction. And you often ask, did I really have to go through that? Yes, it's the experience. The experience is the real benefit, if you ask me.
The exposure to everything.
Yes, it is. It is. And that, and the social interactions that you have, if you're within the campus. The interaction with knowledge is good, yes, but the interaction with others is also a good thing. Yes. Now, when you want to say that in order to be able to head an organization, you must have this additional academic qualification. No. The truth is you don't.
You don't.
No, you do not. What they need to be telling us is the sort of experience they require of someone to have, because that experience is what's going to count.
It's practical.
Yes, not your academic qualifications. There is no qualification you're going to get that focuses on managing an airline. It requires you to have experience in that field for you to know. So, I am in full support of those who have given this pushback.
Pushback.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of things that took the country or threw people into a tailspin over the weekend, Pumwani childbirth saga reveals a sorry state of maternity hospitals. Its name should elicit lovely images of proud mothers, bouncing babies and joyful families. And for some years, Pumwani Maternity Hospital in Nairobi delivered excellent services. Birth was its byword. Then somewhere along the way, things changed. Neglected by city fathers over the years, the once famous hospital is now a pain for mothers. Hardly a week passes without a bad incident. At the weekend, a video clip of a woman in labor lying on the tarmac outside the hospital caused outrage. She had been turned away by the guards from the only place she knew her baby would be safe. But she trusted her maternal instincts and successfully delivered with the help of a good Samaritan. Shockingly, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services went on the defensive, saying the incident took place when nurses were on a go-slow. The director of medical services at the NMS insisted that essential services were running, yet the woman in labor was barred from accessing the facility. Delivery certainly was not among the essential services. Women leaders reacted with fury and demanded an investigation to stop a reoccurrence. Homa Bay woman representative Gladys Wanga dismissed Dr. Kibaru Mbai's statement, saying the guards could not have acted without instructions from the management.
Of course. Of course. There's absolutely no way that the guards just made a decision that
on their own.
Yeah, amuingi hapa.
Yeah.
You know, the guards do follow instructions.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
And that was a really, really, really unfortunate incident. I mean,
you know, it's unfortunate because it hit the papers. There were clips about it, and we got to know. It's not any different from this story that has refused to come to an end about Black Lives Matter. The moment it hit the media, the reality that other people have lived with for the longest time now became a subject of public debate.
There you go.
The issue of Pumwani has been there for the longest time. You required the situation of a desperate mother to actually characterize it and encapsulate it so that people can understand this is the net result of what we've been talking about with reference to this place.
The issue of poor maternal health care in this country is something that women have been dealing with for a very, very, very long period of time and have been crying and asking for at least the slightest improvement so that women are not dying or that their children are not dying when giving birth.
If you were to actually understand what happens in many maternity wards, you'd be surprised the number of women who actually sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Meaning the bed capacity filled, overflowing on the floor. Now, this story, I think, becomes even more bizarre and heart-tagging when you juxtapose it to the stories of what is stolen. with every turn of the head, the ministry whose duty it is to ensure that these institutions function as they ought to, and what goes on there. There is no ministry in this country that champions, that takes the cup when it comes to these matters more than the Ministry of Health, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's none. And just when you think that this particular story you're reading of will become the worst you've ever heard of, another one appears. So you actually gobstopped. You actually wonder, okay, so what exactly are we dealing with here?
Even the ones you're talking about, women sleeping on the floor, delivering on the floor, the ones where they were kept there, they couldn't pay their bills, all sorts of things. Did you think, just like you're saying, did you think you would come to the point whereby a woman's baby is crowning outside the gate of the hospital, of a maternity hospital,
Why do you think I call it
where
bizarre?
she should be giving birth? I mean, how much further from
Why couldn't they just let her
reality
in?
could you get? Just let her in, for goodness sake. What was it going to do? For crying out loud. Why?
This is
Somebody
where
gave
now
it
you look at even how we enforce our laws and all. I mean, action should be taken. What Dr. Mbai should be saying is that action should be taken against, not just praising the one nurse who heard this and came out, because this one nurse heard this, came out. Yes, let us recognize her, but then the system should be censured.
You know, even if
The
you say...
system at Pumwani maternity
I
should
agree.
actually be put to
I
question.
agree. You've always talked about people stepping down and resigning. This one shouldn't be there. This is criminal neglect. What if your complications...
What if she
What
died?
if she had died?
And what if the child had also died?
Yeah.
What if, yes, what if? Because that is a real what if.
Yeah,
Out in the open.
that's absolute crap.
It is. Anyway, doctors say that the abnormal is when a woman gives birth and her baby comes out alive and she's fine. That's the abnormal. The norm is for a woman to go through childbirth and not make it. The norm is for that child not to make it. So the what if is actually very high in terms of percentage, that something could have happened to her.
And this is in a facility whose function is just that.
Nothing
Primary
else.
function.
It's
They
a
only
maternity
have one
hospital. They only have one job.
That's it.
Deliver babies
And
and
then
deliver
a client
mothers
who requires the
healthy.
services comes in and you turn them away.
For crying out loud. Go slow, no
Has
go
the
slow, don't
administration come and explain to us what happened?
That's what now
That's
the
what
NMS
Mbai is
Director of
saying
Health
now.
is coming out to say,
That's what the Director of Medical Services is saying. They want to go slow, so things didn't really, they were waiting for money from county, had not come, Senate had not decided.
Bank.
Bunk. What did you call that thing?
Which one?
Higgle.
The higgledy-piggledy.
That one.
That's the one. This is a higgledy-piggledy.
This.
It's one of those moments.
It's
Good
madness.
grief.
It's madness in its purest form.
And my fear is that, as I sat and I listened to everything that was being said and I saw social media go crazy, I said, you know what? This kind of noise, don't just make it for 2 days. Because come Tuesday, when people have gone and visited her and given her diapers and food, they'll forget this story like it never happened.
Yeah.
But it's a deeper issue than the uproar. It's much deeper, and those are the conversations we should be having.
And those
to
women
improve
legislators
to
should not
improve
be
services to
behaving like
Kenyans.
activists.
Yeah.
No, they shouldn't.
You don't
They-
make noise when something happens. You should be making noise to make sure that the system is at tip-top shape. That's what you should be doing.
You
Yeah.
know, this is one situation where the women legislators should be biased, completely biased,
100%.
and just focus.
Focus on this matter.
Focus.
Yes.
And get to the
Don't make
bottom of
noise
it.
on Sunday and then...
Let it be said you don't take interest in other things. So what?
It's okay.
But focus on it so that the change that you keep talking about actually comes into
Is
being.
realized.
Yes.
Coming to the top of the hour, this is the Situation Room at Kenya's biggest conversation. In the next hour, let's talk about dementia in Kenya. We'll be speaking with Dr. Muthoni Geshu. She is the head of Healthy and Aging Unit at the Ministry of Health. We'll also be speaking with the CEO and founder of Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization of Kenya, Elizabeth Mutunga. Keep it right here. Join us for that conversation. We'll also be live on KTN Home. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Right. So what does it look like on the streets this morning? Okay, so not too bad on Mombasa Road. We're going to see that hold up until about Nyeri Stadium roundabout. And then getting out of there, on Uhuru Highway all the way through to Westlands. It will be bumper to bumper for some time. It's already there. Getting into the CBD from Thika Road, also not too bad. At the overpass at the Globe Cinema, where that was, it's getting into the CBD without too much of a headache. And we will see heightened levels of traffic within the CBD this morning. It's already starting to build up. Coming out of Ngong Road and off of Langata Road, it's not too bad either. But as you join these other major highways, that's when you're going to have the problem. Okay, outbound on Thika Road seems to be a bit of a hold-up as well. There was the issue around Roy Sambo this morning, and that body is being cleared. Police are on scene to take care of that, so hopefully that won't cause too much of a problem. Industrial area, Ion Industrial Area this morning, the roads are still being sorted out, still being worked on, so those roads are closed. Likoni, Lunga Lunga, and then heading out towards Jogo Road. So plan ahead of time so that you get out without too much of an issue. Let us know what you see this morning. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Let's see where we can help you out or where you can help someone else out.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to
2
start
minutes
your
after
day.
7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7. We want to welcome the audience on KTN Home. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Happy Monday. You'll be with us until 9 o'clock. And also, we are on www.spicefm.co.ke and SpiceFMKE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Ndu, as we begin this... before we come to you, let's actually go back to C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
Do not follow a person who is running away. Simple.
Do not follow a person who's running away.
Though our experience in Kenya is the complete opposite happens.
That is not a practical proverb.
Yes, when people start running, people tend to follow while asking, what are we running away from?
Yeah.
What has happened? But they keep running.
Maybe it's not the physical running.
Perhaps. That's why it's a proverb.
Exactly. Yes.
We're supposed to expand our capacity, expand
What
our
other running would it be?
mental.
They're distancing themselves from you.
Yes.
Yes.
So if they're distancing themselves from you, let them go.
You have observed in the recent past one small little saga about involving one department in the Ministry of Health. I keep calling it a department because I see it KEMSA, saying, no, actually, this is running away. The minister told me, and in case you think it was only the minister, the PS also told me, that's running away. Because you are the head, you are the CEO, you're in charge.
Don't chase after them.
But anyway, we will continue.
Just carry your cross.
Nope. Pass it on.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so this month, we said the month of September is important when it comes to some aspects of health. And which ones are these, Ndu?
Oh, dementia is one of the big ones. So it's let's talk about dementia. Something that, as I looked at this, I realized the countless stories that we've seen in media, in newspapers, even those that people will tell you that you saw somebody who was of an older age kind of wandering around and they didn't really know what was wrong with them, right?
Yeah.
And they took them home and they sat, or somebody talks about they keep forgetting things, and we kind of laugh it off every now and then. But it actually turns out that it has become something quite serious. That with Alzheimer's disease, all right? Alzheimer's, dementia, both of these things are being commemorated this month. But more interestingly is that to speak about them and to talk about the realities that more and more people are facing over time. And these two mental issues have been bothering quite a number of people, but we never really talked about it because we don't like to talk about mental health as much as we should. So the encouragement then lies now here when we look at these issues and say it's about time to start speaking about them because more and more people are suffering from them. Dementia is a decline in mental ability. It's severe enough to interfere with daily life. Now, Alzheimer's causes dementia, right? Alzheimer's disease, when you have memory loss and a general depreciation of mental health or your mental status. And Alzheimer's then now can cause what is dementia. And dementia now, it just becomes so severe that you're not able to function properly on a daily basis from your mental state. And so it's having the conversations around this. Might you have somebody that you live with who is suffering from something like this, but because we don't really grasp it, you're not really sure then of what exactly is going on. In the past, you would have said, well, that one just, lost it and, left them to finish their days on earth. And that usually was the case. But to have conversations about this is that you can at least allow or be fundamental when it comes to, older people living a life that is a little bit more comfortable, even when they do live with these two conditions. So
Does
that's
it come
what we're
with
talking about
age
this morning.
necessarily?
It is associated mostly with age, but with time, as the understanding of the disease or the condition, because dementia actually is a condition, general condition, as the understanding of it has become broader, it has been understood that even people who ordinarily could not be referred to as old in any sense of the word have also experienced it. Yes. There are things which enhance it. One, they would say it's hereditary. Some say it's certain lifestyles that also exacerbate it.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that when it comes to understanding it fully, as I say, the jury is still out. There's still a lot to be understood about it. Because even when people say that in Kenya, more and more people are experiencing it, you need to ask the question, is it that we've gotten to a point where we understand it better, so we're able to diagnose it better? And that's why we're saying the numbers have increased. And maybe the numbers were always there, but we didn't quite know how to determine it.
Or didn't want to discuss
Or
it.
reporting it now
Or
is
didn't want to
Exactly.
talk about it. Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't want to talk about it. The likelihood of then you reporting it or taking somebody like this to hospital
Diminished
then
completely.
was out the window completely. Nobody really wanted to talk about it before.
Let's bring in two people who will help us to discuss this conversation this morning. This is Elizabeth Mutunga. She is the CEO and founder of the Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization of Kenya. And Dr. Muthoni Gishu. Dr. Gishu is the head of Healthy and Aging Unit at the Ministry of Health. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very good to have you on the show this morning. Welcome to the Situation Room. I want to start with you, Elizabeth. You are the founder of ADOK, the Alzheimer and Dementia Organization of Kenya. Tell us about this organization. What is it about?
Okay, the Alzheimer Dementia Organization of Kenya is an organization that supports caregivers that have a loved one living with dementia. The organization came about because my dad had dementia around 92, and it took us 15 years to get diagnosis. And also, I could not get a support group to plug into, and that is why I looked for a way to support another caregiver so that they do not take that long to get the support that they require. And so we create awareness on the condition, and then also we support the caregivers through support groups, through creating awareness in their neighborhood, so that in case their loved ones wanders away, they're able to have the neighborhood support them and bring them back home. And also we also try and create awareness on the condition, because a lot of people have seen the symptoms, but they do not know what it is.
And Dr. Gishu, let's first of all start with the definitions with you, because just like I was asking in the beginning, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia?
All right. Dementia is an umbrella of many conditions. And one of these conditions, or the common kind of dementia, is Alzheimer's.
Okay. How do you tell that someone has Alzheimer's?
All right. First, you need to make a diagnosis of several things could happen.
you could have it presented in 4 main ways. And the most common is the loss of memory. What do I mean by loss of memory? Somebody has just had a conversation this morning, or somebody just had breakfast, and then you will ask them, what did you have for breakfast? They don't remember having breakfast. Or, for example, you're having a situation where you're having spouses, you just discussed about how they needed to buy a piece of land, and 20 minutes after that, when the conversation is probably going on, and one of them, maybe who's suffering from Alzheimer's, is asked, okay, so what is the next plan? And I'm thinking, next plan about what? We just didn't have any conversation like that. So memory loss is actually one of the commonest cause. One of the commonest signs. However, they have very good long-term memory. They will give you stories about their childhood, about how they grew up, about what they did when growing up. But anything that is recent memory, maybe a few hours ago, a week ago, 3 weeks ago, they do not have any memory on that.
All right, so that is Alzheimer's. Then what are the other forms of dementia?
All right, so the most common is Alzheimer's. The second most common is vascular dementia. Vascular means that it has something to do with the blood supply to the brain. So you will find that people who have suffered stroke are likely to have a kind of vascular dementia. And then we have something we call Lewy body dementia. We have something we call frontotemporal dementia, and we have Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, among many others.
Okay. Elizabeth, I mean, as we're looking at some of these cases, or rather looking at this as a whole, some of the things we talked about a few minutes ago before we started this is that we never really acknowledged it because people never really spoke about it. Nobody wanted to take their member of their family to hospital to say something seems to be wrong with their mental state. It never was a thing. We'd keep them at home and move on from there. What has changed over time? What has changed? Are we getting more comfortable when it comes to talking about mental health?
I would say there's a big change now, because initially, also with dementia, one of the difficult bit about it is that you see the changes with the person, the personality, and you start wondering what's going on. You do not understand what's going on. But a lot of people now, and also thanks to internet and everything, because like I said, in the 90s, it took us 15 years to get a diagnosis. Now somebody will call you and tell you, I am seeing this kind of symptoms, I am seeing them forgetting, I'm seeing they are not able to trace back their steps. What do we do? So I think there's new information now. Although still stigma is still rise, a lot of people will not come out and state that their loved one has dementia, because the things that they will be doing would be very uncomfortable. For example, they will forget where the bathroom is, and then maybe you're having a meeting with the rest of the family, and would end up just going to the bathroom just in front of all of you. Not because they want to, but it's because they forgot where the bathroom is. But I can say it's very different now than it was before. We are talking more than we were.
In the past, athletes, specifically boxers, are the ones who were known to be closely associated with this particular disease. And
yes.
Well, talk a little bit more about it and explain why.
Yes, it was because of the head injury. One of the risk factors is head injury. So anything that if your head has been hit, or even maybe things like even how we're using motorcycles now, and maybe it's one of your empowerment, when there's constant damage to the head, it will cause head injury, and that is why we saw a lot of boxers having dementia.
But also, depression has also been associated with the disease. And if we look at our country, now I'm coming back to Kenya, again, if we were to go by what we read in the media, or rather what we encounter in the media, what we read in the papers, is that there are more and more cases that we keep hearing of people experiencing depression. So could there be a direct correlation between this experience and what, again, has been touted as the rising cases of dementia in our society?
I would say yes. Depression is one of the risk factors, but also by the time the doctor is actually running all the tests, because they have to check, because there are also two types of dementia. There's the irreversible and the reversible type of dementia. And the irreversible type is like Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body, all the ones that Dr. Modoni talked about. But the reversible one, for example, if somebody has a vitamin B12 condition, maybe they have depression, maybe they have thyroid condition, if this is sorted, then they're able to go back to their normal life. But yes, with the increased number of cases, and one of the things that we say, stress could also be a contributor. There is no known cause yet of dementia, but it could be a contributor.
Can it be controlled? Can it be managed? Can it be cured? I think those are three questions that are popping out, for a lot of people. And if we're looking at preventative care and healthcare in this country, how then do you know ahead of time when you're doing your yearly checkup that if you're taking an older person in your family to hospital for a checkup, can something be found for somebody to know that maybe my loved one is gearing in this direction? Are there indicators?
I would want Dr. Modoni to jump in there.
Yeah.
All right. 40% of the dementia cases we have are actually preventable.
Okay.
Can it be managed? Yes, it cannot. It can be managed, but it is not curable. So what does that mean? That we have to invest heavily and intentionally in prevention. And when you're going for an annual checkup, we need to have older persons go for a comprehensive geriatric assessment. And if these people will not go for a comprehensive geriatric assessment, but everybody is going for the annual checkup, they can always request for a cognitive screen. This allows opportunity for the caregivers to pick possible early signs that may not have been picked or may not have been seen or may not be easily noticeable. The 7 stages of dementia. In the very early stage, which is a very mild cognitive impairment, there is likely that not much would be picked. But by the time we're getting to the second stage, there is a lot that can be picked early enough to allow preparation as the disease progresses.
This is obviously something that's being paid attention to on a national level, Dr. Gishu, and even from the Ministry of Health. Why this attention? Why is it important to look at it from this point? We're asking more and more stakeholders then to be involved.
It is important for, I would say, 3 reasons. One, the risk factors for dementia are things that, apart from the genetic ones and the familial ones, majority of the rest are things that are within our control, something that we can do something about. When you look at providing education for children, both primary and secondary, preventing head injury, being physically active, having good diet, when you look at all the 12 risk factors, those are things that we can do something about. That is one. Secondly, it helps us prepare the individuals, the carers, and the family on what it means to have or to take care of a person living with dementia. And it also allows us to be able to help them plan for their health needs, just in case they get to a stage where they cannot make decisions, which will happen. And thirdly, because we know that without a cure, we need to have people live with dementia and live with dignity. And fourthly, it is important that we increase and create as much awareness on this condition. Why? It will allow people to be able to get diagnosis earlier. Secondly, we have seen what have happened during COVID. There's an age or there's a stage at which people with dementia get lost. And more often than not, assuming it is past curfew time, these people are likely to either be found, and since we don't have much awareness, they will be found to either be intentionally going against the law, and what that could result to, or they will just get lost. And since we are not able to trace them, or they're not able to trace back themselves to their places, it means they could get lost and get lost forever. So what does that mean? The family and the carers will always be anxious looking for the people. But if we know more about dementia, we will easily be able to trace and quickly be able to help these people trace back their homes.
Okay. I know that you've talked about this 40% of cases being preventable. And I'd like to look at that because across board, we've talked about preventative care in this country that would really help then when it came to things in the future like bills and also quality of life, etc., etc. So what is it that you would be asking people to look out for when it came to cases of dementia and even Alzheimer's now? What is it that, you would say you can prevent it if you did 1, 2, 3 of these?
All right. One would be to increase physical activity. This could be done both at a policy level and at an individual level. We need to make sure that we provide primary and secondary education for all children. Then we need to look at decreasing harmful alcohol consumption. We need to prevent head injury, which is both occupational, like what happens with boxers, and transport, like the road traffic crashes that we keep getting. For people with hearing difficulties, we need to assist them use hearing aids, and we also need to protect our ear health. We need to promote cessation of smoking and also support individuals who are looking out to quit smoking, which has been found to be beneficial at any and every age. We need to reduce exposure to air pollution. We need to prevent or limit drinking as a habit. And then we need to focus on reducing obesity and diabetes. And something very important, we need to look at our social interaction. We need to increase our social contact and reduce and manage depression. When I look at social contact, we'll find that a good number of us actually socialize on the phone. It has been found that our social networks are actually very supportive when it comes to making our brain health better, as well as supporting us through improving the quality of life with or without dementia.
Dr. Gishu, the things that you've said, my goodness, all these things that you've said, it seems that the Kenyan population is predisposed from these things that you've mentioned just now. It seems that quite a number of people are predisposed to something like this in the future.
But you see, again, when you look at it, there are also very things that we can actually work on, but we have to be intentional on that.
I want us to take a quick break and then we come back and continue this conversation. And especially, I'd like to know at what age does it start setting in, and at what age do you start being more intentional when you're doing the regular checks? As you know, for example, there are certain ages where you're told at this age start checking out your health for certain conditions. So at what age do you start checking out specifically for Alzheimer's and dementia? This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We are speaking with Elizabeth Mutunga. She is a CEO and founder of Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization of Kenya, and Dr. Muthoni Gesho. She is the head of Healthy and Aging Unit at the Ministry of Health. Keep it right here. We wanted to take a look at weather and traffic. We will be back broadcasting on Spice FM and KTN Home. It's 25 minutes past 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
Okay, it's overcast in Nairobi at 14 degrees. Cloudy conditions are going to last through most parts of the morning, and a chance of rain later on with highs of 25 and lows of 12. Nakuru is partly cloudy at 14 degrees, highs of 23 today with a chance of showers later. Nyeri at 14 degrees is mostly cloudy, highs of 23 and lows of 13 with a chance of rain as well. Rain is in the forecast for Eldoret today with highs of 20 and lows of 12. Currently mostly sunny conditions at 13, however. It's 20 degrees and partly cloudy in Kisumu, going to highs of 27 and lows of 19 with a chance of rain later on. It'll also be rain chancy later in Kakamega, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Currently at 17 degrees and partly cloudy. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 24 degrees, highs of 29 and lows of 23. It's partly cloudy in Malindi as well, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Let's take a look out of Kenya now. Mostly cloudy in Kampala at 19, highs of 26 with a chance of rain. Partly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam with highs of 30 and lows of 22. Joburg is mostly sunny at 17 degrees. We'll go to a high of 27 and lows of 9. And finally, for now in Lagos, the thunderstorms continue at 30. This will be the high for the day and will come down to lows of 23.
Traffic.
It's already a manic Monday, so the train has decided it's going to stop at Gitaru, and so the jam is crazy. Let's look at Thika Road as well, where all stops and the drive-in is jamming up. Muthaiga is fully packed on the service lane, and my 3 drivers, that's Matatu, are they're the ones who are causing some drama here today. Let's not forget about the traffic jam that's also happening on Gong Road today. Matatus again misbehaving and not obeying the traffic lights and zebra crossings, and somebody has escaped death by a whisker today right at the Kenya Met. So it looks absolutely crazy. Mombasa Road at a standstill right around the JKIA turnoff all the way then to General Motors. You'll be fine, and then right at Bellevue as you're trying to get towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, it's going to clog up again. That's not happening either way. As you get to Huru Highway towards Westlands, all the way through, guys, it's jam, and no butter. It's not smooth today. I'm sorry, but it is a manic Monday. Let's look at how that may improve over half an hour. Let us know where you might be stuck. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. We'll keep you company at the very least.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
29
Nairobi.
minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room. In the room this and every morning is CT Muga Nduoko, and I'm Eric Latif. This morning we are discussing dementia in Kenya, and we have the CEO and founder of the Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization of Kenya, Elizabeth Mutunga, and the head of Healthy and Aging Unit at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Muthoni Gishu. Before we went to the break, Dr. Gishu had said, I'm going to come back and request you to actually explain to us, at what age should you start looking out for the signs of dementia and Alzheimer's?
All right. Basically, it has been shown that people 65 and above have the highest incidences of dementia. However, in families that have had dementia before, we have seen dementia in people who are as young as 48 years old or even 45. So it is important that we take care of our mental health. When there's depression, let it be addressed. And also, it is important to actually begin taking cognitive screening as early as 45.
There's a medical term. I, as someone who is a non-medic, I had to repeat this thing around 10 times before I could pronounce it, and say phallopathy, and say phallopathy. This is with reference to HIV and dementia. Now, the articles that I have read indicate that the latest stages of HIV infection, one of the things that is indicative of it is an onset of dementia. Now, even with the efforts that have been made in this country to meet the 1990 mark set by UNAIDS, there are people who may have suppressed the disease, they may be on regular treatment. Essentially, they live a good life. But again, the same research doesn't seem to indicate that there's any sizable or noticeable effect that this treatment has on reducing the effects of dementia. What do you have to say about dementia and its direct relationship to HIV infection?
Actually, one of the other types of dementia is HIV-associated dementia, and like we have seen before, suppression of the viral load over time does not contribute or does not equate to reduction in dementia symptoms. So, having HIV as a condition, it is also imperative to take care of the dementia that comes with HIV.
But
so it is important.
Indeed, but let me ask, the reason why I brought in HIV is because the fact that you have suppressed the virus doesn't mean the person is not HIV positive. And we know people can be infected from as early as when they are born. So if we know the HIV prevalence in the country has gone down, yes, but it also means that because of the prevalence that we've had in the country, HIV contributes significantly, I would argue, to the state of dementia that we have in the country.
It is highly likely, and those are some of the areas that we need to do research on to be able to answer some of those questions.
Okay, this is for you, Elizabeth. Looking at social issues now, or the social factors surrounding this issue, is it a problem in Kenya? Is dementia, Alzheimer's, an issue in Kenya? Is it significant enough for the ears on the back, or rather the hairs on the back of our neck, to stand up and say something needs to be done? It needs to be talked about a lot more.
I would say yes. And it's because others are going through it, and also with the support, the caregivers that we support. The numbers are really high, but also, like I said, because of stigma, a lot of people still not coming out to speak about it. But yes, we need to start having the hairs on our head rising, because also as the person with dementia is affected, somebody has to stop working, and usually the one who, usually from the cases that we have had, especially with the caregivers, the person who was a breadwinner stops working because they've got dementia. Then what happens? A caregiver, who is also either a family member, it could be a spouse, it could be a child, has to leave their work too, so that they can come and care for the person who's living with dementia. So those are two incomes that have been lost. So what happens to that family? There are issues in the family, financial issues, emotional issues. We've had cases where even people are mistreated, not because you want to mistreat your loved one, but the stress of not being able to meet your daily needs. So yes, we need to have our hairs rising, because it is an issue, it is impacting the economy, and we need to deal with it with immediate effect.
If we look at some of the Western nations, obviously when they have their older person nursing home facilities actually entrenched in social development, across government, it's something that national governments do in some countries. Do you think it has gotten to the point in Kenya whereby it needs to be looked at more seriously then to get health care for people who would suffer from this? Or do we just continue with the traditional ways that we've done it in Africa as usual, is that we take these people into our homes and we take care of them until then?
I think of course things are changing now. Initially, a lot of people may take their loved ones to home, but now many of the maybe children, maybe of the people who are living with dementia may not even be in the country at the moment. So the elderly people are neglected, and they are either our country, and so they either sleep without food. So I think it's something that needs to be considered, so that they are not, they have good quality of life, dignity of life, because when they are all by themselves and maybe they are not eating, they are not showering, all these other issues. And then also with dementia, as the disease progresses, for example, if somebody has not been walking for a while, then they'll forget to walk. So what happens to them? They can no longer move until their mobility is affected. So it is time to start thinking about having homes where, if you're not available to care for your loved one, then let them be taken to a home so that they can get some quality of life.
In the 47 counties that we have, how many health facilities would you say are able to handle these cases that we're talking about?
at the moment, I would say not everybody understands what dementia is, and so even in the level 5 hospitals, I doubt, because one of the things that we would have the person who would look or diagnose somebody with dementia would be a neurologist, and I do not think we have neurologists in the counties, but I would want Dr. Mudoni to speak because she's from the Ministry of Health, so she has a better perspective than I do.
This is true. It is a challenge because we have a challenge both when it comes to looking at the number of neurologists we have as a country and those that are based in the public hospitals. When you also look at the number of geriatric doctors that we have, or people with an understanding of geriatrics and gerontology. So this is an area that we also as a country must invest in. However, we have begun with training the community health volunteers on how to identify some of these conditions. So I think we're in a good place, but again, we have a lot to do. Again, having to make a diagnosis, like you've heard from Elizabeth, it took them 15 years to have a diagnosis. So we as a ministry are working on systems that would make diagnosis easier. And this includes creating awareness as well as having systems in place which we use for diagnosis at the health facility.
Let me ask this simple question. Is it preventable and is it curable?
It is not curable, one. It is preventable, yes.
Really? How exactly do you prevent the onset of dementia?
Two things. We can prevent dementia and we can delay by addressing the risk factors that we identify early in life. Remember earlier I talked about a list. I talked of a list of 12 of them.
Yep.
So for where there is genetic predisposition for dementia, it can be delayed.
Delayed, yes, I can understand that, because talking about people who are HIV positive, you can, the antiretrovirals have been proven very, very conclusively to actually delay the onset of dementia simply because of the interactions that the drugs have with the brain and the functions of the brain. But preventable, I'm not so sure if it's actually preventable.
As a matter of fact, a good number of health conditions have a preventable or a preventive part of it. The only thing is that when you look at prevention, it's something that I do today that will only be seen 20 years from now, as opposed to treatment where I do it today and I'll see results in 48 hours. That is where the difference comes in.
Generally speaking, yes, but with the dementia, if, let's say, it's hereditary, how on earth do you prevent it?
Now you can delay.
Not only saying delaying, but then now in prevention, the list of the 12 things like, reduce or stop smoking, reduce or stop intake of alcohol, exercise as often as you can, reduce your exposure to air pollution. So you're saying with a combination of these things, then it's actually possible then to prevent getting yourself into an onset of dementia.
There's a bit that we can prevent, and then again, there's a bit that nature has to take its course that we may not have control about or over.
Dr. Forgive me for taking you to task, but I want to focus on this bit that you can prevent.
Yes.
Okay. Please, walk me through. What are these bits that we can prevent?
So when you look at it, there is, by the time we get the presentation, or by the time we get the formation of the proteins that actually get deposited in the brain, there are things that instigate that prior to that happening.
Yes.
So there is a bit of the production of those proteins, and there is a bit of helping those proteins, for example, like detoxifying from the protein. So some of these things that we do, for example, smoking, harmful alcohol consumption, head injury, are small injuries that eventually increase the chances of, as well as increase the chances or the earlier onset of the dementia. So again, if we're able to prevent or stop some of these things from happening, it means that we are likely, not 100%, but we are likely to prevent dementia. If we do not get exposed to most of these risk factors. So we need to take care of our environment because, again, most of these things are environmental in that they are where I live or in what I do as an individual.
So are we saying that obviously there are people who go through the age above the 60s and 70s and 80s without getting to this kind of levels of dementia or Alzheimer's? Are we saying that those are people who are not exposed to these conditions?
Two things. Yes, there are people who go through their whole life without having to experience dementia. They may have been exposed and they may have protective genes because there are protective genes for dementia and there are genes that actually predispose one to get dementia. So they could be exposed and have protective genes and they may not get dementia. There could be somebody who has protective genes, they are not exposed or they have made an effort not to get exposure, so they're likely not to have dementia. And the people who have the genes that expose them and may have exposure to the risk factors and may or may not get dementia. So it's not a yes with solid yes. Because there are very many factors that come into play. However, dementia is not normal part of aging.
Okay.
Because people actually say, ugonjwa uzee, when you start noticing them getting into this behavior, like, clearly, amezeeka.
I keep asking, is there a disease condition called uzee?
We don't know.
Condition, yes, but it isn't a disease. It's just a natural progression that human beings go through, but it is not a disease. It's just
it's a stage in life.
Yes, it's a reality of life, aging.
But it's not a disease.
No, it's like saying pregnancy is a disease. It isn't.
Daktari, when you start talking about dementia, there are people who then start getting worried. For example, somebody is younger, in their younger years, but they get to a point where they start forgetting some simple things. You start forgetting names, or you start forgetting, formulas, or you start forgetting tasks that you wanted to do. Should those people be worried? Is there cause for concern?
It's not everything that, it doesn't mean that every time you forget you have dementia. That could be the kind of life we live today where we have too many things around us to think about, to do. And that means there's a likelihood that, you could forget a few other things. However, there's a point at which it gets to, and it actually becomes a cause of alarm. Yes.
At what point will that be?
Maybe I could also jump in. One of the things about forgetting, especially with people living with dementia, is you're not able to retrace your steps back. For example, we've had incidences where you go to the kitchen, for example, and then you reach there and you're thinking, what did I come for? And then you stand there for a few minutes and then you tell yourself, you literally cannot remember, and then you go back and sit down and then remember, I was going to pick up a cup, for example. So you are able to retrace your steps. But with people with dementia, you're not able to retrace your steps at all. Like now I know we've had this conversation with 5 FM this morning, but later when somebody asks me, where were you? And I'm not able to say that, then there's a problem. So I think that is where, if you cannot retrace your steps back, there is a need to see a doctor because there's a problem.
So by the time this is happening, by the time you get to that, are we now past the stage whereby you can say it can be delayed? We know it can't be cured from what you've said so far, but by the time somebody's getting to that point where they're forgetting things and they're not able to retrace their steps, is it onset?
Yes, it is onset.
Okay.
Yes.
Coming back to the conversation on the social side of things, and Ndu had raised this, the issue of care homes. In Kenyan society, as you go around the country with your association of the Organization of Alzheimer and Dementia in Kenya, and you have these conversations with people, do you see that as something that can happen within the next 10, 15 years where the society in Kenya actually starts accepting that this person gets to a certain age, they have this condition, I can take them to a care home where they will be taken care of, and everybody else will not be saying they've abandoned their kin?
Well, as I go around, also it also depends on the family values. A lot of people will agree as a family that it is important that we put them in a home. Others will not agree at all. So it's really, I can say, a 50-50 conversation. Some agree that also we are at a point where we cannot even take care of them at all, and really they would be better off being given great care. Some of them because of work. Some of them maybe they're very far. They do not live near. They're not up country. They are maybe in Nairobi, and so with time, I think people will have a buy-in, because also it takes a lot of one. It's emotionally draining. It's painful to just see your loved one just going down and you cannot do anything about it. With time, I think people might agree, but there are those also who believe I cannot abandon my loved one. I will stay with them until it's time for them to rest. So, like I say, it's still 50-50. Not everybody is like 100%.
Dr. Gishu,
if I could comment,
Yes.
if I could make a comment on that, if you think about it, would it be better for somebody to quit their job and stay at home and take care of this person, or would it be better for them to get them a place where they can get good standard of care and allow themselves to be able to do other things as well? These are conversations that we need to have in an African setup in the most practical way, because again, in 10, 15 years, this may not be inevitable.
Sure, I think that was my next question, actually, Dr. Gishu, because when you talk about it, for sure it makes sense that you don't. I mean, a lot of the burden of sickness is not on the individual in the African setting. It's on the family members then who are then laced with the responsibility of taking care of their loved one. However, if we want to talk about these institutions that then would be necessary to have in the country, whose responsibility is that? And here we are saying that, there is a challenge in counties. You said so yourself, Dr. Gishu. There's a challenge from government in terms of getting this kind of support. So obviously they have to put a hand in there. How far do we see that role being fulfilled by government to say that it's necessary to have some of these places set up? Is that something that can be done so that by the time this rolls around on its head in the 10, 15 years that you talk about, there will be adequate government support?
That is something that can actually be done and should be done and will be done. For example, the government is putting up a home for older persons that will help people who have been abused to get a place for rescue. That is happening in one of the ministries. When you look at the health part of it, that is a necessity. This is a product that needs to go into the market, and we have to create demand. However, we provide the supply. However, the population needs to see the need for it. There's a possibility of having a home here, and let me call it an institution. And we could have people say, this is not African, this is not the way we do things. But think about it. Where we are headed to, we're having people have 1 or 2 children. So it gets to a point where we need to ask the question, what would I, as an individual, at the age of 80, want to experience? Would I want to have my children look after me, or do I want to invest in an institution right now that can take care of me when I am 80 years old and I know the kind of quality of care they offer?
But the responsibility to start this conversation and to start showing that also rests heavily on the government. Are we seeing the government spearheading this conversation?
That's one of the reasons why we are here today.
Nice way to get out of it. But in what other forums and ways, in terms of policy, is this conversation taking place?
All right. If you look at, there's actually a guideline, standards and guidelines on how to begin and run institutions of older persons. That is already in place. coming soon, there is a healthy aging strategy, which is one of the things that is looking at that. We're also working on the National Dementia Action Plan. So on a policy level, we can say we are set to go.
We want to thank you very much, ladies, for joining us this morning. Elizabeth Mutunga is the CEO and founder of the Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization of Kenya. Is it ADOK or ADOK, Elizabeth? ADOK. And Dr. Modoni Gesho, she is the head of Healthy and Aging Unit at the Ministry of Health. Asanteni sana for speaking to us, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation at 10 minutes to 8. Let's take a break. We'll be back, continue with other conversations. And in the next hour, the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be looking at the mess that is the MES. The mess of the MES, the Managed Equipment Service. This was investigated by a committee of the Senate, and they came up with a report, and they have very many recommendations. We want to look at those recommendations in detail in the 8 o'clock hour. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM, KTN Home, and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Spice and everything nice. Alright, okay. Spice it.
Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mama Boaz and Philip, and this is at Anna_Kanina, says, very informative topic, especially the topic of reducing chances of dementia. And this is the conversation that we're having, early onset of dementia. Thank you very much for all these comments this morning. The issue of care homes, you know, this is a conversation that now brings in the social aspect of things. It's un-African to take your elderly person. In fact, we keep laughing at those people in the Western world who take their loved ones to
nursing
some
homes.
nursing home.
No, it's
where
like
they are
putting
washed
them in
by
storage.
Kenyans.
It's dumping them. You dump them. You dump the responsibility of taking care of them to someone else. And it's always been the thing that, you know, these people have taken care of me my whole life. How then can I take them and dump them somewhere else for somebody else to take up? Un-African.
You know, my view on this subject, I think, is known because I spoke about it very spiritedly. And I said, no, akuna.
It's abandoning.
No, absolutely. But then there is a little detail here that we must consider. Not everyone is able to look after themselves, let alone a second
Somebody
person.
else. Exactly.
Now, this is where now government intervention becomes necessary because religious organizations recognized this thing a long time ago. And many of them set up homes specifically for this purpose. They knew it. They understood.
The Catholic Church, for example, has these homes, right?
There are many.
But then you'd look at them and say, when somebody becomes a Catholic priest, they join this family of.
Yes.
So it's taking care of its priests and the people who have worked for the church for many years.
But they also have homes for just individuals.
For any individual.
Yes,
They have
yes.
hospices as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
They understood this concept and put it to practice a long time ago. The government has been slow in catching up. But that there exists a department that looks into it is interesting. But the truth is not much has been done.
you often ask that, you know, you say that as you pay taxes as an individual in this country, it should not be stolen, right? Then the question is that then what should my taxes be used for? These are some of the examples of what taxes should actually go towards. If you look at other countries whereby they're taxed heavily, they never have to worry about things like this because you know that there's government support when it comes to things like this. Because I wanted to ask that question and I said to myself, you know, that's the thing that you'll be told later. Even if the structure has been set up, the fuel for this often is the funding. And you'll be told there's no funding because we have so many balls in the air as government. It's not possible then for us to look to something like this.
Actually,
Now,
Dr. Geshu alluded to it being a private sector driven issue.
Yeah.
So we are creating demand as government, so the market then takes it up.
It makes sense if it's just an academic subject, but we know the reality of this. if indeed someone contributes towards a certain fund, and if you are employed, there's this thing called NSSF.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in all honesty, over all these years, even if you increase that because it's compulsory anyway, the contribution. But aside from guaranteeing that someone has an income, because you see, one, that income enables you to attend to the needs that you have on a daily basis. Okay? So the stress factor doesn't feature. And the onset of stress also brings with it all these other issues that we've referred to that eventually leads to dementia-like conditions, etc., 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 depression, and so forth. Now, the issue of putting up institutions, NSSF is known to put up huge buildings.
Yep.
I am aware that they're income generating. At what point has it ever occurred to them that perhaps, in addition to putting up these lovely buildings, which are income generating, I have not heard of an NSF building that is empty. At what point should that income also focus on the very contributors?
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Actually, you've just hit the nail on the head. When you're looking at then how do we finance this, we have got this huge
It's
fund.
there.
It
There's
has
a
the
fund.
money.
But we see what it does with the funds. It puts up
Yeah.
buildings. So you're saying put up, and we don't have to be costly.
It's basically put up retirement homes.
Do
That's
so.
part of retirement benefit for your members.
And you
Exactly.
Need to, and you need to look at the care, because we're not talking about individuals who require life-threatening surgeries on a daily basis. You're basically looking at comfort care for people. So what is it? Making sure that they have somebody who's looking after them round the clock, administering drugs when they need it, making sure that they've been fed, making sure that they're taken care of morning till night. It's not a budget-busting activity.
No, but it provides comfort for someone when they are old.
Exactly.
And they are not able to do some of these things for themselves.
That's what we're talking about.
That's why I mentioned the onset of some of these conditions that are stress-related. You eliminate them.
Yeah.
At worst, you reduce them because this person knows, I will wake up, I will have breakfast, I will eat,
I
I'll
will
be
be
looked
washed.
after.
I
They
take
know.
Care. Yeah.
They understand.
They know that, and guess what? It also provides comfort for the people who would otherwise be taking care of them to know
Yes.
that actually I can continue with my daily activities. If I need to send something in terms of funds for the upkeep, in addition to what is being done there, at least I can focus on the activities that will be income generating for me, so that I can take care of my loved one in this institution where they are. So
Yes.
it's comforting for the person who is
is-
suffering. It's comforting for their family members as well.
Believe me, it's very distressing for the family members if you have a relative who has dementia. It is distressing to a degree that you cannot actually imagine or even verbalize. It is distressing. One, you don't know what to do.
Yep.
And even as you get to understand it, then what needs to be done. Remember, you are battling between the memory of this person when they were functioning well and now what you actually see before you. Getting those three to
Disconcerting.
it is a difficult process.
It's
But then there are those who can afford to look after their loved one. They should.
They should.
But then the majority are not able.
They're
And
not
when I say
able
majority,
to.
I mean it. The majority are not in a
They're not
position.
able to.
And this is yet another example of something that actually has a solution right here, right now.
And if we don't
But it's
look at
not
the
being
solution, we are impacting, we continue to impact the society in terms of economy.
Yes, exactly.
Somebody who is a breadwinner has to stop working so that they take care of this other person who was also a breadwinner who has now gotten dementia.
Yes.
What are we doing as a society? I mean, these are the conversations that we ought to be having on a regular basis on what to be looking at solutions and solution-oriented. Well, when you talk about solution-oriented, there's a program that was initiated by the government that was solution-oriented, taking care of our healthcare system and looking at the things that are needed. This is basically equipping hospitals, because one of the things that we kept saying for a long time is, yes, we have hospitals, but they don't have equipment. So now the government came up with this brilliant plan to put equipment in hospitals. Where? The drama that followed. Senate investigated this. The Senate committee presented a report to the Senate. We want to discuss that report this morning. In the next hour, we'll be joined by the Senator for Makueni County, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. He's also the Vice Chairman of the Wiper Democratic Movement Party, Kenya. So we'll be talking about that and looking at what the committee recommended among the findings of that committee. We also look at what else has been discussed in the public domain about this. There's a story in the Standard today that looks at, some of the county governors who are completely aware of this. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Traffic.
Getting into the CBD this morning, still posing a bit of a challenge, and that's whether you're coming from Thika Road, it's whether you're coming from Mombasa Road, whether you're coming from Westlands. Everybody trying to get into the CBD today is going to have a bit of a headache. And yes, we've already described it as a manic Monday. It looks like there will be this traffic for some time. Coming off around the SGR area towards General Motors today, that's where we see a lot of traffic. It's going to continue that way. Also from Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way to Westlands via Huru Highway, that's going to be a mess. Interestingly enough, the eastern and southern bypasses have no traffic whatsoever, and it's looking good there. If you want to take a longer route in and out of the CBD, you should be able to do that without any problem. And that's getting to Mombasa Road, getting to and from Thika Road. So there's an option for you to use if you need to. Still, the issues are along industrial area. That's expected because of the roadworks happening there. I know we need to repeat it often, but some people just might forget, you know. Okay, so apart from that, it looks good in other areas so far. You get stuck, let us know. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way
Right,
to start
2.5
your day.
minutes after 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, and thank you very much for joining us right here on Spice FM, KTN Home, and on www.spicefm.co.ke. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can join the conversation on all those social media handles, and also on Instagram at Spice FM KE. So, the Senate investigated this small matter of the managed equipment scheme. Yes. And it is a small matter of
Small
just a
matter.
couple of billions of shillings that we're going to. It's for the benefit of the Monanchi. You keep talking about this. The government does things for the benefit of Monanchi and for development purposes. And they came up with this brilliant scheme, and it was open, and they were willing to share all the information that you wanted. The Senate committee came up with a report on this, and looking at the executive summary of this committee. Oh, no, before we go there, CT, sorry, I forgot. Today's proverb.
Oh, no, it's perfectly
important.
all right. Yes, do not follow a person who is running away. Really simple. Simple, not complicated. And I'm told it's a Kenyan proverb. Don't follow a person who is running away.
Okay. All right, I'm trying to think a Swahili version, whether I know any Swahili methali that goes anywhere close to this. I don't know.
My response to you is to look at you. Yes. And hope that you'll come up with a response.
I haven't come up. If you can come up with any Spice of MKE on Twitter, I would love to know. So, some of the recommendations, the findings of this committee, and I'm just going to look at. So, the first one, they said the Managed Equipment Service project was a public interest project that was intended to benefit the public by achieving the constitutional right to the highest attainable standard of health. This is outlined in Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution. However, the persons involved in the conceptualization and the implementation of this project from the start to finish carried out the project in an irregular and illegal manner that completely violated the very Constitution and the sacred principles that the project was originally conceived under. So it was conceived very well, it had sacred purpose, but then implementation, things went awry. B, as a matter of fact, the committee says. The committee has established that the MES project was a criminal enterprise shrouded in opaque procurement processes, and that the Ministry of Health relied on a faulty tool, that's a public sector comparator, to justify a predetermined outcome in relation to the award of tenders that likely resulted in imprudent use of public finances, contrary to the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act that forbids wasteful expenditure. They've started on a high note.
They've started
As
on
a
an
matter of
accurate note.
fact, this was a criminal enterprise. It was
From the
just,
get-go.
yes, designed very well, but then it was taken over by criminals and it was implemented as a criminal enterprise, a way to make sure that they make money out of this. Now, this is a very sad thing to hear. And when you look at back and you see the kind of furore that this issue raised, beginning with the governors coming out to say, look, come on, what you're saying, what this program is, we are not aware of what exactly happened. Page 8 of the Standard today says, county bosses' role in leased medical equipment revealed. Fresh details show that the governors approved the 39 billion shillings MES deal despite their insistence that they were not aware of the transactions. This story says that the documents in possession of the Standard indicate that health executives from all the counties met with the Health Cabinet Secretary and signed a memorandum of understanding on the project. The MOU was signed between the Health CS then, James Masharia, as chair of the Intergovernmental Forum, but Dr. Maurice Siminyu, who was the health executive from Busia and the vice chair, and George Kamau, the health and planning executive from Moranga, on behalf of the counties, signed this MOU. So with this, basically, the story is saying that the counties were aware that this was happening because the governors sent the CECs, they came, they signed an MOU, and therefore they cannot feign ignorance.
Have they not shouted the loudest as to how they were kept in the dark, and that these things were done without their knowledge, and that all they experienced were things being forced upon them? Has this not been the narrative that has been spun for the longest time?
That's been the story. That's been the story. And even here they could argue, I mean, look, this was not done with the Council of Governors. It was done with CECs who are chair of the CECs forums, yes, but...
This is what now makes it a criminal enterprise, because if you anticipate and you understand how the processes of government function, then you'll find fall people or a fall person who you actually send ahead of you. So that when things go up in smoke, you know where the fingers can be pointed to. But then the question you ask, really, in all honesty, a CEC would go and sign a deal on behalf of a county without the government knowing and without the government or the governor making noise about it.
But let me ask you, CT. So, as a CEC who's chair of a CEC's forum,
yes,
do you then go and sign on behalf of the other county governments? You're the chair of a CEC's forum. As the chair of a CEC's
well, thank you
forum,
for furthering that discussion. Yes.
You're basically like a leader of a group, a caucus. Now, does that mean that you can actually enter into deals, especially with the national government, that have financial implications on behalf of the county governments? You're only a CEC of Busia. How does your signature then tie in Makueni or Machakos or Mandera?
Lamu. Turkana. How? That's why one gets the impression that this thing was conceived and it was implemented knowingly that the outcome of such a thing, if found, would be this.
Yep.
So the people to whom the fingers would be pointed, this group of CECs.
There's some interesting aspects of this that we'll be looking at, but let's bring in the Makueni Senator, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. Good morning, Mutula.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Very well. I'm still waiting for my fufu, but it's okay.
Don't worry. I have you. I will have you sorted out properly.
Okay.
Mutula, today's proverb, part 2, usimwage mtama kwenye kuku wengi. Your secrets of the deals that you have with Ndu, don't bring them to the public.
Kwa hivyo nisimwage mtama.
Usimwage mtama kwenye kuku wengi.
Haya, kuku wengine watakula.
Kuku wengine watakula. Mutula, welcome to the Situation Room, and thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Eric.
Now, this report It took a while. There were, a couple of delays and application for extension of time by the committee so that they can produce the report. Final report is then out, and we are seeing what they've said. One of the people who has been very vocal on this matter has been Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the senator from Makueni County. What is your immediate reaction when you saw the contents of the report?
The findings are not surprising at all because this is what we thought it was. It was a criminal enterprise. It was, in fact, even the idea that it was well prepared or it was well intended is wrong. There was no good intention in this. It was absolutely criminal from day one. Unfortunately, Eric, when this matter was presented in the Finance Committee in 2014, immediately I joined the Senate. Senator Boni Alwale and I were the only people who opposed this framework because at the time the advice we got was that Kenya would have easily saved upwards of 11 billion shillings had we purchased this equipment outright. That's the whole equipment outright. But from what we know, part of the equipment or a large part of the equipment is not necessary, has not been used. In Trans Nzoia, Isiolo, and many counties, the equipment is still in cartons because it was purchased without considering whether the needs assessment of those counties, etc., etc. And don't listen to Council of Governors. When they tell you about these things, it's a lie because the county executive committee members of those respective counties were put in a meeting and nearly compelled to sign this agreement. Memorandum of understanding that did not make any reference to the original contract. The memorandum of understanding, Eric Latif, is principally 3 pages long. It refers to a document which they have never seen. In fact, it is possible that some governors or a bulk of them have never seen these contracts because huge contracts, they had never read them, they didn't make any reference to the counties. And then when the county executive members went to the meeting, they were given sheets of paper, small, maybe 3 pages, and signed on the dotted line. To his credit, Eric, I must say, Governor Isaac Ruto refused to sign this contract. The contract for Bomet County was signed by the late Joyce Laboso after she was sworn in. She's the one who signed it. But he refused to append his signature to this contract. If a governor like Governor Oparanya tells you that the equipment was delivered at night and the chiefs were saying the reason why people are dying is because the equipment is not being used, it's also a lie. This was a choreographed scheme which eventually was changed. The contract sum was varied. It was signed in dollars. The contract is ending. It is a leasing contract. We don't know what we are going to do with the equipment. The bulk of the equipment is outdated. We don't know whether to throw it away. There is no way to dispose this equipment. Eric Latif, this is not even a criminal enterprise. This is a scandal. This is worse than all the things that you have done because if somebody can get into such a contract, which ideally is supposed to save lives, and it doesn't save lives, we continue to pay this contract. The contract has not been implemented. I mean, it's not even, I've said that even jailing these people is not good enough. Maybe shooting them, because how would you conceive such a contract? And now, Eric Latif, let me just conclude by saying, while this is going on, the counties were not purchasing ICU beds. The counties were not purchasing ventilators. The counties were purchasing stretchers and instrument trolleys. And let me just read for you the cost. The cost of one instrument trolley, according to the medical leasing equipment, is 275,267.50 cents. What is the retail price? 15,000. A linen trolley, the one that you put laundry.
Same specifications, though?
Huh?
Same specifications?
Yeah. And then you have a linen trolley, the one that they roll around in the hospital. I'm sure you've seen one. One was purchased at 312,708 shillings. How much is the cost? 25,000. Patient stretchers, the stretchers, 2,213,573. What is the retail cost if we were to purchase outright? 30,000 shillings. Resuscitation patient trolley, 1.6 million. The cost is 50,000. Stitching removal set, 406,000. The cost is 5,000.
Come on, Mutula. Are we talking about things that?
Yeah. We have it in the report. These gangsters list gloves, syringes. You've seen those rods that you use for
holding
IV.
For the IV bags.
For the IV, at almost 1 million shillings. Torches, exorbitant cost of upwards of 100,000 shillings.
But at what point does this become part of the managed equipment service? At what point do gloves and such things as trolleys become part of the equipment that was in this program? Was that in the initial stage, or was it just amended as we went along?
Now, Eric Latif, when I say that the county executive members did not know what they were signing, they signed on a memorandum, which was 3 pages long. Up to now, the governors, I can tell you, the governors have never seen this contract. This contract, in fact, when they were delivered to the Senate, immediately we left the meeting, somebody was told to go and collect them. Unfortunately for them, we had already collected them and done 5 sets for all the leaders. But these contracts that have got the schedule of costs, they have got the schedule of the items to be purchased, have never been seen by any governor. When we were interrogating even the persons who came to the contractors themselves, they said, the schedule that you are reading for us, like the one I have just read for you that is on page 241 and 242 of this report, they say, no. That is not the cost we offered. That is more than what we agreed. That is the criminal enterprise. And I'm telling you, history is going to judge this country so harshly, because some of the things these people have done is ungodly. Because how can you steal on medical equipment when people are dying, when people are suffering, when women are delivering on roads? It's ungodly.
Mutula, am I hearing you saying that essentially this whole scheme, because it was a scheme, was created then for people just to steal money?
It's obvious. Let me just tell you this, Ndu. In my office, I lease my printers. We no longer purchase printers. We lease them. So every other time when you are leasing equipment, if a new machine that prints faster or scans faster is in the market, I replace it. The contractor comes, I replace that machine, and I get a new one. Now, that is ideally what a leasing contract is supposed to do. Because there's nowhere in the world where you do such bulk purchase of equipment for such a long time, because the technology keeps on changing day to day. But we have leased equipment which we are not using, which is now outdated. There's no return clause. This medical leasing equipment Kenya purchased for such an amount of money has no return clause. What are we going to do with this equipment once the lease contract is done? Are we then going to be compelled by these cowboy contractors to purchase this equipment by force?
Yeah.
Or like in Makueni, am I going to go and remove the equipment, the MRI scans and the CT scan that we have installed, or the theater lights that we have installed? What are we supposed to do with them if this was a leasing contract as opposed to an outright purchase?
So
these questions are so fundamental. Yes,
I'm confused here. Was this a leasing program or was it a hire purchase scheme?
It is a leasing contract. The way the police are leasing their vehicles from Toyota.
Yep.
It's the same.
So the police are never going to own these vehicles.
No.
They
don't belong to you.
They don't belong to you at all.
No.
But in the particular case of this equipment, it sounds like we shall end up owning the equipment at the end of the contract.
But it is not specified. It is not specified that we are going to own the equipment. But you see, that's why I'm saying it's a criminal enterprise, because the only way to get the equipment into Kenya was to say it's a lease.
Right.
And because we are not very, I mean, let me just say this, and with tremendous respect to this country, we are not very good with details. So when you are told it's a leasing, you thought it was a leasing, but you don't imagine that you can lease the trolleys I've mentioned here. You can lease theater lights because after you have installed them and used them, what do you do? They return them. How do you dispose them? So and in fact, I said this in Kitui that this contract involves big boys, mafia. You know the bad guys. And that is the reason why. And that is the reason why nothing has happened since we started questioning. In fact, in the last division of revenue, we refused to attend to it because of this leasing contract. Because for the last 7, 8 years, we have been apportioning billions and billions of shillings to this contract. It has been varied by 200%. I mean, governors are in court for lesser offenses. There is no place in public procurement where you vary a contract by over 200%. This one is over 200.
You know, I like your adjectives: big boys, big mafia. How far up does it go? No, okay. Since you answered a question specifically, let me ask: does it go as far as the president?
No, I mean, let's not go into names. What I'm simply saying is that this has the highest possible level of entrepreneurs. The people behind these companies are not the ordinary people. It's the same thing that was being done at Kemsat. Same cartels. You know, they're in the same WhatsApp group.
What I find interesting with your findings is this. If we look at from the days when we didn't have a Senate and we only had a parliament, and there'd be parliamentary committees that looked into issues such as this one, and maybe they had daunting findings and so forth. Do you see this finding actually having any repercussions on the people who have perpetrated what clearly is a crime?
Let me just say this, that the National Assembly Committee, our counterpart committee in the National Assembly, in fact, when they went round looking at these companies, eventually didn't table a report. Eventually didn't table a report and let this matter slide. It's not that the authorities do not know what's going on. They do. But there are people who are making upwards of 200 to 300 million every financial year out of this scam. And the people, part of my colleagues, are also interested parties in this. And therefore, it's because it's become extremely difficult for people to articulate this issue even on the floor. In fact, for the Senate committee to have come this far and to have a report signed by all members, I can tell you this is a milestone. Because these people have deep pockets. I will not be surprised that they will attempt to interfere with the debate. I will not be surprised if they want to make sure that we don't pass this report, etc., because these are scamsters. These are, thugs who are making money out of mafia house here, where Mutai Kagwe promised that he's going to take action, but you and I know he's not.
Looking at it, and just for the benefit of our audience, so they can understand many of the aspects of this report, it starts off by saying it was designed so that it helps and benefits the people of Kenya in the counties. And in fact, I start by reading that the Ministry of Health carried out a needs assessment which confirmed that counties lacked adequate capacity to absorb the equipment. The Ministry of Health still went ahead to procure the medical equipment for counties, fully aware that the same equipment would not be optimally used. The committee has concluded that the procurements were done so to adverse private commercial interests that were supply-driven rather than need-driven at the expense of the Kenyan public.
Yes.
So just looking at all these, it sounds to me like the committee is just finding fault after fault after fault. Is there any time where we can say, look, somebody at the Ministry of Health or somebody in government, some officer at middle level or junior level in government sat and wondered, how do we improve healthcare in this country? And one way of doing that would be just by leasing equipment, just like Mutula and advocates do, they lease equipment.
Yeah.
Is it possible that this was conceived at some point with the best of intentions at heart?
Yes. In fact, during the doctors' strike, the part of this in the CBA, the doctors insisted that they wanted, for purposes of their work, the doctors insisted that the government must equip hospitals. This was through KMPDU.
Yes.
There were good intentions, but the people who implemented this, although pretended or purported that they had done a needs assessment, they didn't do it. County of Kakamega, for example, they went and bought theatre equipment. The county of Kakamega had already purchased the theatre equipment and installed it. Mm-hmm. So that equipment can't be used. Why? Because you then have to do another different structure, building, to put the equipment inside.
Yeah.
Now, if they had done a needs assessment to ensure that Kakamega needed the theatre equipment, they would not have purchased that theatre equipment. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, how do you purchase the same equipment for 47 counties? What sort of needs assessment is that? I mean, the diseases that are in Homa Bay, trypanosomiasis, sleeping disease, and the diseases that are in Pumwani are not the same. Mm. The diseases in Lamu and Marsabit are not the same.
Yeah.
But these gangsters bought the same equipment and went and dumped them in a county like Trans Nzoia. And I can tell you, the chairman of our of our health committee is the senator of Trans Nzoia. Mm. And they purchased them for this equipment was supposed to be for 2 hospitals. Part of the equipment in Trans Nzoia for the second hospital is still in cartons as we speak. The one in Isiolo, they realized after they delivered the equipment that they needed 3-phase electricity. Mm-hmm. One of the equipment in Makindo Hospital cannot run because of 3-phase electricity. Mm. Can you imagine that even small little things like 3-phase electricity was not ticked in the boxes? So you deliver equipment, you do not have a radiologist. I recently sat with the former chair of radiologists here in my office, and I almost cried. It's unbelievable.
But if you're saying this, and you're speaking the manner in which you're speaking, because I also remember last year that you at UHC4 in Kisumu, you had some of the same sentiments when you were asking these questions even before all of this blew up. And you said, what's going on with this leasing? Why are we leasing in the manner in which we are leasing? Now, if you in government are asking those questions, look at the other side. Kenyans are asking these questions whereby they're going to seek healthcare and they're asking, what on earth is happening in government? And I have to ask, Mutula, what on earth is going on?
By the way, I must explain. Maybe you've misunderstood my position. I sit in the legislative arm of government, where we do budgets, where we legislate, where we do oversight. And I've said that the committee of the National Assembly, where the budgets are actually appropriated and done, refused to table a similar report like this one on this medical leasing. In the Senate, only Bonnie Handwale and I initially raised concerns about this issue. Mm. So, and strictly speaking, we have made recommendations upon recommendations on the Auditor General to do a special audit, EACC to do an interrogation on this. They have never even started, I doubt they've even opened a file about this issue. The fact is, even when John Allen Namu ran a story, my friend John Allen Namu did a documentary about this issue, about a patient who died because of some of the problems caused by this equipment. Nobody picked it up. There's something that still doesn't ring true to Kenyans about the medical leasing equipment. It doesn't ring true even to print and other media. Because what I am talking about, like for example the prices, when I was reading the prices of some of this equipment, and we went and leased gloves, metal stretchers, linen trolleys, etc., etc. I mean, if we dedicated a page through standards about the cost of this equipment vis-a-vis the retail cost, maybe we will start pricking the conscience of Kenyans, because I think that people are thinking, another one. Just another scandal like the last one, you know? And we are so used to scandals and nothing happening and filling newspaper pages and social media that, you can just move on. Can you imagine if you had to tell Kenyans that the gloves that they find in the hospital or the syringes were leased?
Mheshimiwa,
Take a break.
If Ndu, I said this in Kisumu, and you were there,
Yeah.
and I have repeated this again in the same word, it still hasn't gone into the heads and minds of Kenyans. Jesus, even when Jesus comes, people will deny him. I'm telling you.
Taking a break now at 8:30. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're looking at the mess behind the MES scheme. The Senate committee that was investigating this has come up with a report, and basically they've said this was a criminal enterprise. We are looking at the genesis of that criminal enterprise with Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the senator for Makueni County. Let's take a break on Spice FM and KTN Home as well as online. We'll be back shortly after we take a look at the weather and traffic. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nyeri. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballad.
Nairobi this morning, mostly cloudy conditions for most parts of the day at 16, going to highs of 25, and a chance of showers in some parts. In Nakuru, it's partly cloudy at 16, going to highs of 23, and the chance of rains later. It looks like a wet afternoon in Nyeri as well, going to highs of 23 and lows of 13. Mostly sunny in Eldoret at 15, going to highs of 20, and coming down to lows of 12. It's 22 degrees and mostly sunny in Kisumu. Highs of 27 and lows of 19, and the chance of rains in the afternoon. 19 degrees in Kakamega. Also looking at the forecast for rains later with highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa. Will remain that way for most of the day. Highs of 28 and lows of 23. 28 degrees the high in Malindi, and partly cloudy conditions at the moment. Let's take a quick look at Kampala, where it's partly cloudy at 20, going to highs of 27 and lows of 19, and a chance of rain in the Ugandan city. 26 degrees and partly cloudy in Dar es Salaam. Foggy conditions later, going to highs of 30 and lows of 22. Joburg is mostly sunny at 16, going to highs of 27 and coming down to a chilly low of 9. And finally, for now, in Lagos, the rain continues to pelt down at 29, going to highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Chilled Spice.
It's bumper to bumper on the Uhuru Highway, all the way from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout well into Westlands today. This is what we expect. We see that the roads are clogged up because of the work that's being done on the expressway. Same as Mombasa Road. All the way from Bellevue then towards Nyayo Stadium. That's what we expect. Out of Thika Road, though, is not too bad. Kiambu Road is a sandwich this morning, whereby you had 2 to 3 layers. Now this morning, you have 6, unfortunately. So Kiambu Road then joining with the Thika Superhighway as you try to get into the CBD is not child's play, unfortunately. You're going to need a dash of patience to get through that one, and maybe a sing-song from CT Muga, but we'll see about that in a short while. Spice FM KE, that's how you can get in touch with us if you need to. Let us know why you might be stuck, where you might be stuck, and if you find an alternate route to use.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
26 minutes to 9
94.4
o'clock.
Spice FM.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are unearthing the mess that is the MES, looking at the report by the Senate committee. It recommends some of the things that it recommends. EACC and DCI investigate the circumstances surrounding the awarding of these contracts, that all public officers found culpable of irregularities and illegalities committed in the furtherance of the adverse commercial interests which were at the expense of the people of Kenya be prosecuted, that all private entities and persons found culpable of participating in these irregular and illegal acts of the liable public officers adversely mentioned also be investigated and prosecuted, that the Auditor General expeditiously undertakes a comprehensive forensic audit of the MES. In particular, the comprehensive forensic audit should look at the total costing card so far, and so on and so forth. And CT, you had even raised this earlier with Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the likelihood of this report moving from here.
Beyond
we
being a
have
report.
seen other reports of commissions of inquiry, reports of task forces that recommend very many things, and that's it. That's all that happens. Recommend this, and the other, that several people be... In fact, now when it recommends that there is further investigation to be conducted, that becomes the end of it. Mutula, the likelihood of this report gaining any traction beyond just, the strong words that are contained in it, what is it?
I would like to encourage you today. Maybe we should have started with a prayer that you have some little faith. It's true. It's generally true that a lot of reports, Ruaraka land scandal and others, and many other money heists conducted by public officials and government civil servants have gone unanswered. But in this particular one, this issue is not going to go away because of the manner it was implemented and where it is being done. It's not centered around Afi House. We still have to deal with this issue much later because of the fact that the equipment are all over the place. Now, 26 governors are going to leave office. They're going to have 26 new governors or more in the next general election. So these questions will continue being answered. Fortunately for me, the Constitution is very clear about conduct of public officers when they're in office and when they're out of office. So even if the government now does not take action, the law allows us to take action on them after they have left political office. So it doesn't really matter for me. The fact is that a record already exists that shows this was a criminal enterprise. Money was improperly used or misappropriated deliberately, and so that Kenyans then could be defrauded.
Is there statutes of limitation on what can be done to people who perpetrate such crimes within our laws?
There's no statute of limitation on criminal actions.
There's none whatsoever?
None. 20 years from now, they will still look for you.
Excellent. Now, let me ask the question that I had asked earlier. I'm going to rephrase it and I won't mention names. When you have the sort of details that you've presented, laudable, exceptional, excellent, do we have names perhaps that accompany? Because when you have such details, it'll point to certain officers, maybe not individuals. It'll point to certain departments of government. And if it points certain points of government, then we also know the people who have the sort of authority to have ensured that such things happen within those offices. Do we have these details?
You have names. You have names of the person, the cabinet secretary who was there at the time, who witnessed the signing of the contract. The contracts were signed by then PS Muragori, who is now a PS of Ministry of Health. The variations were done when the minister, now ambassador of Kenya in Geneva, Dr. Mailu, was there. The third portion of it was done when the then now Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Water, Cecily Kariuki, was there. The rest are the mafia that are hiding behind the companies that, and some of them are well known, but their names are contained in the contract. So it's not that we don't know who they are or the people who conceived it in government. The people who are the private contractors, some of them are known. But in terms of government, we know who was there, and it is obvious and it is apparent.
But when you look at these names, and you have referred to them now as mafia, that seem to have very deep tentacles within Afia House and other arms of government, especially Afia House, right? How is it possible that such a program could be conceived, could be executed in the full glare of everybody? Because this was not a, closed deal. It was actually being made public at every step. How is it possible that it could be executed in such a manner and still succeed?
Eric, maybe there's a parable. Maybe you should read tomorrow. The road to hell is paved with very good intentions. So if you go back to the pictures of the launch of this program, in fact, this program was launched at State House, and the equipment was at State House. So the people who do these things, they would dress the devil in like an angel, if that's what they would need to do. But I've just talked about the details. I've said that at the time the Cabinet Secretary Cecil Kariuki came to the Senate, and that is after Mailu had left, Ambassador Macharia had left, the contracts that she delivered to the Senate had never been seen by the counties who are the recipients of this of this equipment. Now, what is to tell that there's nobody else who knows what these contracts are about? The Attorney General former Attorney General Gitu Mugai said, I didn't authorize. The then Solicitor General Ken Ogeto said, I did not authorize this contract. This contract didn't get an approval for me. I mean, what are we talking about? Eric, live in a country that has law and order. The person in charge of advising government tells you, I didn't approve this contract.
That's what I'm asking. So how is that possible?
The Solicitor General says, oh, I have never seen this. This is a sham. And those people are driving around in expensive cars and enjoying the sunshine that is Kenya. Nobody has been arrested. Their homes have not been raided. They will possibly be given a press conference by you guys. You will possibly give them a headline in the Standard. I mean, what are you saying, Bwana? What sort of a country is this? Where do we live? If the Attorney General says, this contract was not authorized by me, what investigations are you doing? You arrest these guys and jail them.
Which is why I'm asking again. So how could this have happened like that? Because just the same way you've said, we have CSs. If I recall, it was reported that CS Mailu came and he was saying that he also had tried to ask for more details and he wasn't even getting the details, yet he was the minister. You have the Attorney General saying, I had not authorized this, what I am seeing now, what you're seeing. We have the Solicitor General saying the same. County governors saying equipment has come, some of them have used it, others have not used it, but they have never seen any contract, and yet they know that part of the money that should be coming to their counties is deducted at source to pay for this contract. How is this possible?
Yeah, it is possible. In a country called Kenya, where you and I are citizens and we have shares, it's only possible in a country, a banana republic like Kenya. In the developed world, the cabinet secretary at the time, Ambassador Macharia, would not be in office. CS Mailu, ambassador, would not be in office. Muragori would not be in office. There's another gentleman, I can't remember his name now. These people will not be in office because this is directly touching on their conduct as public servants. But you and I know they are going to wine and dine with everybody, the powers that be. So let's hope that somebody is going to unearth this very, very bad scandal. And I said it's a very bad scandal because it touches on lives of ordinary Kenyans. The people affected are not the people like you and I, who, when you get a flu, you go to Nairobi hospital. If a governor gets sick, they get into a plane and go out of the country, or get into a private jet and run away. This is equipment that is talking about Wanjiku, is talking about Mudeu, Atieno, those people who do not have money to go to a private hospital, even in the ones in the county.
Now, as you've said that, Mutula, how does this then fly in the face of UHC? Looking at a public health, coverage, care that's supposed to take care of Kenyans when something like this is happening? If this has happened, it's not the only one. There are probably others that are taking place even now, or others that took place concurrently. How will something like UHC be achieved? From a legislator's point of view, how will it be achieved if we can't even get this right?
Now, you see, the UHC, Universal Healthcare, is a very nice name, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just a euphemism for corruption. Because if you cannot equip hospitals, you cannot have universal healthcare. Because universal healthcare means that people go to private hospitals, they can do imaging, they can do MRIs, CT scans, etc., at a reasonable cost, unlike what happens in the private sector. But the thing about all these things is that nobody wants to make sure that the public health system is functioning. Why? Because the same people who are the ones importing this equipment and are the ones who are doing these things are equipping our hospitals with outdated equipment because they are running the private healthcare. And this is also tied to NHIF. While you're importing all this equipment for public hospitals, the private hospitals in Kenya are collecting through NHIF. NHIF is collecting more money from NHIF than public hospitals. Yet, it is a very tiny fraction of Kenyans that go to the private hospitals. It's a scandal of the health system. The UHC, unless you go to NHIF, unless you go to these purchase of medical leasing equipment, unless you go to the people who are running the imagery in services in the country, unless you check the purchase of drugs, that is KEMSA, unless you tie everything together, you can call it whatever you want to call it. It will be a scandal because there are people who are specializing in purchase of drugs. There are private enterprises. We are allowing nondescripts, some people to purchase PPEs for us who don't even know how a PPE looks like from a sack. I mean, this is, if the president means what he says, you will clean up the health sector in such a manner that we go to the status where Germany is. We were importing equipment from Germany, but the largest and the best hospital in Germany is in Berlin, next to the office of Angela Merkel, and it's a public hospital, 5,000 bed capacity, possibly the best hospital in the world. That's what you do. Kenyatta Hospital is rotting. You have the best doctors, best equipment, but they are not working. Why? Because we have allowed the private entrepreneurs to thrive, just giving them a troopers.
Those
and
private
an empty goal to play.
Those private entrepreneurs, and I'm glad that you mentioned them, Mutula. Whenever we have investigations of this nature, for example, we will focus very much on the public officers who will be removed, others brought in. Right now, there's investigation even by the Senate on KEMSA and procurement surrounding COVID-19, focusing very much on the public officers. But not much attention is given to the private sector players who are really involved in this. And just by looking even at this report, you'll see that some names keep popping out in every news scandal at Mafia House. So why is it that we cannot focus on the real mafia and we focus on the other smaller people?
Let me try and say this in a very honest way. That even the legislators who are investigating this are suppliers of KEMSA or KEMRI and are part and parcel of it. That's why it's difficult, because they're also private entrepreneurs. While it's their right to deal privately, and private enterprise is not criminalized in Kenya. It's very difficult to deal with private entrepreneurs when the persons oversighting them are also private entrepreneurs. So it's a symbiotic thing. It's like I don't know what to call it. It's like a parasite. It's like a tick latching onto a cow.
An unholy alliance.
It's an unholy alliance, of people. So you're right that the person who you're trying to investigate in KEMSA, the person you're trying to investigate in medical leasing, is possibly the person you're going to investigate in something else in mafia house.
Yeah.
And that's why in my tweet I said they're in the same WhatsApp group. And the people who are investigating and interrogating them are also suppliers, are on the list.
They benefit from this.
This is a very, very... This country is nearly at the Sodom and Gomorrah stage. Only that I don't know who the Lot is.
Again, coming back now to the organs of government that should be, watching over us, for us, Parliament. If you look at the National Assembly and look at the Senate, by the time this matter is going to the National Assembly and getting approval, by the time it's coming to the Senate, because it was even discussed in the Senate at the very beginning of this, and you've said it yourself, that there's a high likelihood that even when this report then is tabled in the Senate and it's allowed for debate, the chances of it being approved by Senate, this report being adopted by Senate, as 50-50 as the chances of it not getting approved, simply because of the compromise nature of some members of these two houses of Parliament. What then should we do to raise the bar for these houses of Parliament? Should we say that, for example, if you are elected into the National Assembly or in the Senate, do not conduct any business with government? Because how can you be watching? How can you be, and we've even discussed this before when you're here. You are involved in making the budget for the country. And instead of checking that this budget is going to benefit the people of Kenya, you are looking at how you can dip your hands in that budget. So you're approving a budget knowing full well that it's creating an avenue for you to eat.
Let me tell you, Eric Lativan, you can look at the chapter on chapter 6 of the Constitution on private interest, on public interest and conflict of interest.
Yep.
Insofar as public officers and state officers are concerned. It's not a question of more legislation. It's a question that we have never bothered to implement some of the things that are already in our law books. This question of public officers engaging in private business has never been addressed since the Ndegwa Commission, and it's something I don't think anybody wants to address, because it is possibly the source of fund for elections. It is possibly the reason why our elections are so expensive, because being elected is an opportunity to become a private entrepreneur. You can you can trade with government.
Yep.
So there's an incentive. It's maybe an incentive for government. Maybe the people who are doing these scandals are also funding elections. So there are many, many, many aspects of corruption, illegalities in Kenya that do not have one solution of saying, don't trade with government. And I've given you an example of our elections. I've given an example of how parties get into power, etc., etc. It's a long route of things. But I traveled to Brazil actually some time back, and we started with the anti-corruption organization. At that time, they were investigating the current sitting president. At that time, his predecessor was in jail, cooling his heels in jail, as they're investigating the sitting president at the time. And so is Israel and others. So whilst the country has aspired to have institutions that operate independently of the executive that can oversight government and oversight its operatives, we are still in a place where the three organs of government are sleeping on the same bed. That's the problem.
Is there an end to all of this? Is there, you talked about that, even if it takes 20 years, you're not bothered because you'll see that eventually somebody is going to be brought to book. If we're just talking about this MES mess, if we're looking at other things that could have happened, is there a way? Is there a way out of this, really?
Sometimes I think when I look at the history of other countries, maybe we need to go through these motions so that at some point Kenya can be reborn. Because I've just said that this system is, everything is tied to one another. It's like the mafia. The mafia has a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, an MP, a speaker. You know, it's a web. You touch this, this comes out. You touch this one, another one comes up. You know, that's sort of a system. It's like the golden bug. It had tentacles in every possible place. I've said the Constitution is a well-worded document with good intentions. It has every answer to every question you have about the present, the past, and the future. Everything is there. Maybe, and it's a maybe the end is you people, the voters who put us in office. We are a reflection of you. I mean, we are a reflection of what you think of us. We just didn't change when we elected us. We didn't change from Paul to Saul. You elected Saul, not Paul. Therefore, when you are persecuted, just know you elected Saul.
Mutula Kilonzo Jr., thank you very much for speaking to us. As we conclude, I just want to ask you one final question. What do you say to the people of Kenya who look at this report and they think, it's another one of those, it'll go to Parliament. It's a way for the members of Senate to, in fact, now use it to bargain and demand, if you want me to vote no against this, you know what to do. You know how much you need to give me. What do you say to the people of Kenya for that? What an example. But anyway,
thank you. To the rest of the country, this is not new. This is a scandal just like any other. There's going to be another one and another one and another one. I won't tell anybody to vote wisely because everybody thinks they are voting wisely. When they go, they vote their tribesmen, etc., etc. You want money to vote. So if you want a country that doesn't have scandals, first of all, do a self-inspection of yourself as a person so that then when you are throwing stones, like in the case of Jesus, be careful that you're not living in a glass house yourself. Thank you.
Asante sana. Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Senator from Makueni County, Minority Whip in the Senate. Asante sana for speaking to us, and we hope that we can discuss this matter even further, that this issue of a 350-page report developed by the Senate committee investigating the managed equipment scheme does not just fly under the cover, because it has that huge likelihood of that happening. That it just becomes one of those stories.
You have the report?
Oh, yes. Yes.
The whole report?
We have the whole report. The entire document.
The whole report.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe when we are done, maybe when they lift some of the sanctions on COVID, maybe what you can do for every other day, you can say, Taita Taveta County, pick Taita Taveta County and say, these are the equipment, this is the issue. And ask somebody from Taita to answer those questions. Makueni, ask Kibwana. Kakamega, ask Oparanya. So that the details of this report are not lost in the generalities of EACC and all those things. Did you accept to collect equipment which you are not using? Ask the governor to answer that question, because this should cause a governor to be removed from office.
Thank you very much. Asante sana Mutula, and thank you very much for joining us on Spice FM this morning. We want to say a very good morning and goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. Join us again tomorrow. From this week, you'll be with us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The conversation continues on Spice FM, 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
We have doubt that Kenya is paradise. Kenya is paradise. Just it's gangsters' paradise.
You have to define which paradise you're talking about.
It is gangsters' paradise. This report, you read this report and you just, your jaw drops. You're wondering, so, wait.
It's like you're reading a script for a movie.
Yes, you cannot understand that. So how did this happen? How, for example, was a company that was mandated to deliver certain equipment, deliver equipment that has a different name? This report says some equipment that was supposed to have been ESTEEM, ESTEEM, and the equipment that arrived in the country is ESTEM.
Eric, let's take it even further. You know, the government.
We know about the phones and people who buy those phones in the back streets of Nairobi. You're going to buy a Nokia and you buy a Nokia.
Yes, you do.
And then you wonder. Yeah.
Then you wonder what's
what happened. This conversation continues in the next hour. We'll ask you to join the conversation on 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. And also on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, easing up in some parts of the city this morning, but not as smooth as you'd like it to be. We're still going to see the heightened levels of traffic on Mombasa Road, as well as going towards the Huru Highway, and then further on into Westlands, just because of this. Coming out of Thika Road also is not so bad at the moment. It's looking much better than it was before. Mombasa Road, just a little bit of a hold up, but you should be fine as you get past General Motors. It's staving off a little bit. By around 9:30 or so, it should have at least dissipated to the point whereby it's easy. All right, let us know in case you bump into something. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know if you get stuck.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
0719-012-600. Now you can join this conversation. How is it possible that such... in this day and age, after we've gone through Anglo-leasing, after we've gone through Goldenberg, after we've gone through Anglo-leasing, then you look at this kind of scheme and you read the report that has just come out of, senators investigating and just sitting, calling people, summoning people to come and give evidence, and then coming up with a report, 395 pages of it. And most of it is basically just showing you how crazy it was. From the beginning, from conceptualization to contracting, to it was intended to be a PPP, then it became a procurement, then it now falls under this particular law, the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act, and then counties are not involved, and then who is paying for this? And you sit back and you ask yourself, so how is it that it can be conceived like that and executed, and where are the legislators that we pay?
It's
oversight.
Eric, it's only alarming because in the 21st century, we are in the information age fully. Even in the 20th century, we were, but we weren't as entrenched and immersed as we are now. So a lot of this information becomes public to a wide group of people. Ask yourself about any scandal that we've had in this country. Just go back in time. They're all crazy. Goldenberg. We're exporting something we don't even produce.
Yep.
When you look at the details, all that was done, paper was shuffled. This permit, this, the other, and everything was in order. If you look at the scandal that followed after it, the issue of the Navy ships, you marvel and you wonder, how is it that instead of actually building a ship from the get-go, we are converting, which essentially is a commercial freighter, into a... And you're thinking, hey, why are we doing this? You think it is crazy. We then buy 2 ferries, 2 billion Kenya shillings down the line. And you're thinking, ferry, 2 billion. What? None of the stories that revolve around a major scandal in this country, they're all crazy. They're all absolutely crazy, but they have one thread that seems to run through it: impunity. They do the crazy things because they know they're going to get away with it.
Yeah.
But to say nothing has happened would actually not be true. It may appear like it's small, but it isn't. Let me explain what I mean. I mean, the arms of government, if I look at the judiciary we have now is doing things that I have never seen in the time that I have been alive on this planet, in this country. They are making decisions that previously were not common. Once in a while, you heard someone making such a decision, but it wasn't common. Now, it is not unusual. 2, you have the Director of Public Prosecutions and you have the Anti-Corruption Commission, who seem to be doing something that previously organizations that were supposed to do similar work didn't do. Now, what remains is not just for this matter to come up and to be in the public domain, but for people to actually go to court or be arrested, go to court and jailed. And then this new body that deals with recovering assets, for them to actually do their work and to recover these ill-gotten gains along the same terms that they applied to Eluke. Same terms.
You know, I have this feeling that unless we deal with the real perpetrators of this, who are getting money from the public coffers, who have so much money that they are able to bankroll an election, who have so much money that they are able to influence who gets into office, and then they manipulate them into getting these deals signed, unless we deal with the private sector individuals behind all these scams, we're doing nothing. Because we will keep, yes, we are going to take, a CS, a PS, a CEO of KEMSA, drag them through the mud in court and jail them and even recover all the assets that they have. But the guy who was running it just moves on to the next person. So CT has gone, and I just
you do have a point there, Eric, because have we heard of any private sector individual that who has been arrested for a major scandal in this country?
Apart from Patni, who went through, has had... How many cases has Patni had? He doesn't even know. Apart from Kamlesh Patni with the golden bug, others we don't hear. Well, we know about Triton and the families that is taken to court. You just hear, small cases here and there. The case does not even go far to the point where they are jailed, like the way Ketan Somaya was jailed in the UK. In this country?
Actually, even with civil servants, how many have we seen jailed?
That's the thing.
We have to go back into the 1970s and early 80s to find one who was actually jailed, because the predecessor of KEMSA, the government has always had a body that deals with this procurement.
Medical supplies.
Yes, medical supplies, equipment. The person who headed it was a gentleman by the name of Shimachero. Now, he is the one individual who is on record as having been jailed for his participation in aiding and abetting similar the sort of deals that have mushroomed, evolved, and mutated to the sort of things that we hear. And the other thing that happened was the gentleman a certain Dr. Patel, who was in charge of a certain company called ANPI.
Yeah.
Well, he got deregistered as a doctor. And that company was supposedly deregistered. But again, that is the only time that you hear of someone in the private sector. But jailed, he was just deregistered as a doctor.
That was it. In public service, actually, you've also seen others. For example, the former PS for tourism, Rebecca Nabutola, the then head of KTB, Dr. Cheng. They've actually been taken through court and jailed.
That one is a joke. That one was a genuine joke.
Why is it?
Why it was a joke was this. Yes, indeed, if you don't follow procedure, you should be jailed. And what they were jailed for was simply that. Procedure wasn't followed.
Yep.
It's a jailable offense. 17 million shillings. In a country where even in those days, you are talking about hundreds of millions being lost.
Those are small fish.
This person just happened to be in a position of authority and they had left their flank open. around that same time, there were scandals happening
We're
left,
having
right,
big
and center.
scandals.
Interestingly,
scandals.
Yes.
easily 100 times more in terms
100,000
of
times more. And
Anglo
nothing was
leasing
happening.
Those amounts.
Anglo leasing was happening at that time.
Yes. And then these two people get picked on. No.
So coming back to the issue of the medical equipment scheme, and just going through the report and what has been produced and how it was executed, and you can just see openly that this was. I agree with the report by the Senate. It was a criminal enterprise from the get-go. They basically just wanted to ensure that they bring in money. So equipment has come in, then there's the other aspect. This equipment, for it to operate, it needs reagents, it needs parts, and those ones are the ones that you're going to buy. And they'll come from the same supplier, obviously.
Eric, the sort of leasing contracts such as the one that they speak of, remember the manufacturers of these equipment actually want the equipment to work. The real sales is never really in the equipment. They can even lease the equipment. They can even give it to you. They will make the money on the reagents, because for the equipment to work, you're going to constantly require reagents. So it isn't even in their interest to give you something which doesn't work, by the way. No.
It isn't.
It isn't in their interest to give you something which you cannot use.
But I come back to the issue of the reason why I was asking Mutula whether this was a leasing or a hire purchase scheme. Because in leasing, for example, with the police and the vehicles that they've leased, the police don't buy the parts for service.
That's why they have a leasing contract.
It's a job of the person who has. You pay a constant amount and the vehicle is taken care of, service and everything. Now in this particular one, you are leasing, but then you are still buying the parts.
It doesn't make sense at all.
And then the contract has some
and then
end
you also
time,
buy the
and
reagents.
after that, you remain with that.
It doesn't make sense.
After we are done with the police vehicle, the police remain with the vehicle.
They don't. The understanding is that if something is wrong with it, it's my tongue is tripping in my mouth because my brain is churning out information at a much faster rate. Yes. For such deals to work out, the understanding is actually very, very simple. The manufacturer gets to have a market for their equipment or their goods, all right? Again, the money is made in the leasing, but also in the servicing if it is a vehicle. They know this. So long as that thing is being used, they will make their money. They understand it. And the contracts are for a period of time which cover them really well. And the sweetener for the person who gets the equipment is that when there's new equipment, you will actually be able to access it. So you don't have to bother with looking for someone to service it, looking for this and looking for the other. But this one of ours, my friend, you lease it, you end up owning it. You buy reagents, you buy parts. What is interesting, you're not even using it.
You're not using it. But then you're buying and paying for all of these other things that come in the middle.
Yes.
And in some cases, even the report says you're not buying the latest model.
No, you're not. You're buying something that's almost obsolete.
So you will need to replace it. By the time you're done paying for it,
this thing which you haven't used,
it's about time
you need to buy
a
new.
There's some that are still in boxes.
You know, the Korean
not been
government,
removed.
South Korean government had actually offered such a scheme and such a deal around that same time.
to Kenya.
Yes, they had. Said, we'll come and look at what it is that you need. We're able to do A, B, C, D. I think it came and went.
When you talk about the needs assessment being conducted, so first of all, clearly, the needs assessment was conducted. Went to counties and found out this is what you lack, but do you have the capacity to actually take equipment? Do you have, for example, Makindo, do you have access to 3-phase power? So if you bring this equipment that requires 3-phase power, you'll be able to use it. Do you have the human resource required to man this machine? Do you have the room that is required? For example, for radiology and such, you need a specialized room. Do you have all that required to get this equipment? This was done. And then at some point, this was disregarded.
It was disregarded because if you look at the same equipment was bought from county to county to county, regardless of what the needs were, then you see where the problem was. Because if you look at a county like Laikipia, for example, where a majority of the diseases that they have to deal with, for example, are heart-related diseases. If you look at Nyeri County has needs along radiology and lab services more than anything else.
Yep.
Kisumu County has more lab-oriented and radiology issues than anything else. If you want to look at another county like Isiolo, they're also looking for lab. But across the country, every county has different needs. You would only think then that the procurement would go along with the needs. The painful thing is that they did this assessment. This information that I'm saying now is widely available. Where did I get it from? It's available. You know what the needs are per county. But then you still go and get equipment that you know for a fact by the time it's being delivered and dropped. That's the thing. By the time it's being dropped, you know that it's not going to be used. You know that there are no needs. Maybe, and then for example, again, in Kisumu, you have dialysis-related illnesses. So you need more dialysis machines than you need anything else. You know that these are what the issues are. However, you're going to drop equipment that you also know will not be used. But so long as you're getting the money, there's no problem, and people are dying. So that's why I do agree. For the first time in a very long time, I do agree that because you have put the lives of people in jeopardy, you should also face the same.
You know, this isn't putting the lives of people in jeopardy, Ndu. This is actually killing people. Because, remember, it's a twin-pronged crime. Equipment which doesn't work, money which could have been used for something else also being denied. All right? When you look at what is required, sometimes you're going to buy some genuinely high-tech machine when that is actually not what you need. Whenever anyone goes to a hospital, there is no day you will go to a hospital and whatever has taken you there is not documented. There's no day.
Or just to come and, let's
There's
just have
no
a chat.
day. It is documented. People are trained to actually take that information. All that is required, and it's often done, is to analyze what you have. So it is not even difficult to know what you need. Because of all the people who come in, what do they exhibit? What do they complain?
That's how they come up with this information from their record.
They have it.
Yeah.
And so it's not a question of you just need to ask them. They will tell you, this is what we need. And this is the evidence to support what we need. Yes. In fact, if you look at the support that the Ministry of Health has received from the West, it has been based on those needs. This is what cumulatively the country needs. So let us give you X and X for this particular help. When we had an HIV pandemic, what was being provided for was to cater for that need. And everything else that came with it. Now, the thing about HIV, the positive side of it was that because the attendant illnesses, the opportunistic illnesses, were as varied as their human beings and their conditions, it meant that whatever assistance you needed catered for all these other needs as well. So for the longest time, you would find that these needs are catered for. And it was known, because it was known what HIV did to the body. It's not as though the diseases didn't exist. Now, let's remove HIV from the equation and let's look at people who are now living with the condition but are living well, they're living healthy, and let's look at other conditions that may have arisen. When you hear that people in, say, Laikipia, people who go to hospital, a very large number exhibit cardiac issues, you have to ask, why? Why cardiac? If you go to another part of the country and there are more renal problems than everything else, what is happening? Is it in their water? Is it in the diet? What is it? Now, the truth of the matter is, the people involved in what we did had no intention whatsoever. This was just a means. And that's why early on in the morning I was saying that even this issue of school equipment, I'm seeing it going that route.
It's a scheme.
No, not careful. It's going that route. The moment something becomes centralized.
These desks,
that's it.
1 billion shillings. Desks. All right, let's take a break. Peter Mwangombe says it's a procurement racket. It's a heist. It all started with a stolen election. And that's where the rain started beating us.
Okay.
Bromo says Kenya is a failed state. And people are asking how they can access this particular report. Well, I think it's on the Senate website, but we'll tell you about that shortly and how you can access it. 19 minutes after 9, 0719-012-600. When you come out of this weather break, now we will pick your calls. I see Wilberforce, Irongo, as well as Mohammed, all trying to call in. Now we'll be picking your calls after this break. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, still an overcast situation in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 today. Chance of showers still quite high in the capital. In Nakuru, partly cloudy conditions at 18 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 13, with a chance of rain later as well. It's likely to be a wet afternoon in Nyeri, going to highs of 23 and down to lows of 13. Mostly sunny conditions in Eldoret at the moment at 17. It'll cool down a little bit, though, with the rains expected for later. It'll go high to 20 and lows of 12. It's mostly sunny in Kisumu at 22 degrees, going to highs of 27 today and lows of 19 with possibility of showers later in the afternoon. Kakamega is mostly or partly cloudy rather, highs of 24 and lows of 16 with a chance of rain later on. It's partly cloudy in Mombasa at 26 degrees, will go to a high of 29 and come down to a low of 24. And in Malindi, it's partly cloudy at 27. Sunny conditions later on with highs of 28 and lows of 24. Let's take a look into Kampala, where it is partly cloudy at 21 degrees. It'll go to a high of 27 and lows of 15 and a chance of rains later on. Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees is partly cloudy, highs of 30 and lows of 22. In Joburg, it's mostly sunny at 18 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 9. And we'll finish things off for now for Africa. In Lagos, 29 degrees, scattered thunderstorms, highs of 29. Let's take a look into Beijing, where it's still mostly sunny this Monday, and it's afternoon. They're already going close into evening, highs of 27 today. In London, we are then looking at partly cloudy conditions with highs of 25 and an evident fog there later. Paris is clear at 16, highs of 27 and lows of 12. And finally, in New York, the sun's up at 14. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 16.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Minutes after 9, let's go all the way to Kwale County in Mwakijembe. And this is Mohammed. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning, sir. Wangwana, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Kaka hujambo?
Mimi nashukuru Mola, niko salama, natumai na nyinyi pia mko salama vile vile.
Tuwashukuru tuko wazima.
Wangwana. Mwanzo nataka kuwasifu katika kipindi chenu. Kenya nzima sijaona kipindi au redio inaongea mazungumzo yenye content na substance. I really appreciate that.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Mungu awabariki, muongeze hivyo, msirejee nyuma kabisa.
Asante.
Asante.
Sasa I want to contribute according to the conversation of today.
Yes.
Starting from the baboon research, the Pumwani incidents, the dementia, the Mutola Kilonzo talk. There are issues, we have to tackle the cause root of our problems. You can't treat symptoms. Symptoms are being tackled temporarily. If we get the root cause of our problems, then we can move forward. Now, can you allow me to use the word dementia metaphorically?
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Because politically, we have that dementia in politics, in our community, in our behavior. Just like Ndu just said, come Tuesday, people will forget about the Pumwani incident. Is that not dementia?
It is.
It is. It's insanity.
So I humbly request you, please, the way you brought up experts on dementia, bring up some researchers. Our people do research instead of doing on baboon for 35 years. Don't we have researchers doing some research on the behavior of human beings and come up with some good results. Maybe if you invite a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a motivational guru to come and discuss issues on the behavior of human beings.
Why we behave the way we behave.
Why we behave the way we behave. Scandal after scandal after scandal. However, in hurry the makaliwa are, we are still tubaki nyuma tu.
Yeah. Sawa, tutafanya hivyo.
Ikiwa mtaweza kuja na hawa wataalamu kustadi na kufanya research kwa behavior ya binadamu, tuangalie root cause ya haya matatizo, pengine somehow tunaweza kujisaidia na kujiendeleza mbele.
Tutajielewa.
Tutajielewa ili tujirekebishe.
Asante.
Au tuende ile Lebanon we.
Wapi? Tujazane kwa streets.
Vile Lebanon vile inavyokwenda,
Tujazane kwa streets.
Hiyo si mzuri. Hiyo si mzuri. Hiyo si mzuri. Sipendelee njia hiyo.
Kweli. Thank you very much, Mohammed.
If you come with the experts, nita appreciate sana. Na mtawaleta hao. Nitafurahia sana kwa hiyo kazi nzuri.
Asante sana, Mohammed.
Mubarikiwe.
Pia wewe ndugu.
Asante sana. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Asante sana kaka.
Wilberforce.
Eric.
Good morning. How is Nyamira?
Nyamira is fine, rainy. Now, today I don't even want a question because I'm shocked. As usual. And that will make me say, because since I was a small boy city, I think I've grown to know scandals in this country. Hata ninapokuwa nikiambiwa mimi ni kiongozi wa kesho, today I'm in my mid-30s, hiyo kesho bado ni full of scandals. This is the country where somebody ran away with people's money in the name of Pan-Afric. He came back and became an MP. This is the country where Kamlesh Patni wanted to be president, and today I'm told he's a preacher. I don't know who he preaches to. This is a country of very many things. You are here, guys. Did you saw the famous Parwandala Mihadarati?
We did. 3
series of investigative report, which was never whose report has never been implemented, the acumen and the like. So what I'll simply say, and as always, I've always said, I'm always ready to take count of my own sentiments. I'll go back to what a veteran broadcaster said 18 years ago. I'm sorry that today he is dead. He's no longer with us. That maybe the only way is if one day God can bring what he brought in Noah's time, and we flash off everything from Kenya. Maybe Kenya starts afresh. Then we shall get to the root of these problems. But as long as watu ni wale. Eric, this is the only country that was not could not be prosecuted at the ICC, even after a very big booklet of evidence and Luis Moreno Campos' laughter, which gave a lot of hope to Kenyans. So at the end of the day, what I mean to say in short is that this country, even the report you have today, be sure. And you may not tell me, but you'll be here to see. Hiyo ni cash cow.
So you think
people are seeing how they went to bargain on the same and they get richer.
They'll make money from the report.
Before this report came out.
Okay.
So tusidanganyane bwana. Watu ni wale. Kenya ni Mungu ashushe garika ije imalize watu, garika imalize wabunge wote na maseneta wote na magavana wote, tuanze afresh.
Na Wakenya wote.
Maybe.
Thank you, Wilberforce. Irongo Amos, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're fine, thank you, Irongo.
Allow me to join the old man who has just called and congratulated you on what you are doing. Because honestly, we are lacking a place where to air our concerns. And you have provided it for us. Now, our problem simply lies in the way we handle our power and politics in general. In fact, I listened to Mutula Kilonzo as you interviewed him. And by the time he was leaving, I was sure he did not. He also did not have much because he said maybe and ended up with maybe. This thing that this animal that came in the name of golden bag was actually brought to the public by the politicians.
Yep.
Were it not for the likes of Raila Odinga and the other members of the opposition who actually pushed so much until the government that came, the Kibaki government, had to start investigating it, even though we did not have much about it, we did not get out much out of it. It was the politicians who brought this to forth.
Yeah.
Now, today we have a very serious lacuna. It is as if we do not have the opposition. In fact, we don't have it. And last time, Eric, I told you in your show that Mutula Kilonso, Sakaja, and all these other young politicians are going the wrong way. In fact, for us to be where we are today, where we imagine that it is better than where we were some years back, people braved bullets, people braved tear gas, na hii miti inakaa kama miti ya jembe, so that at least that's how we achieved the IPPG, that's how we achieved the 2010 Constitution and so on.
Yeah.
My call is on well-meaning politicians and members of the civil society. The Court Secretary General should not continue telling us about BBI. I'm not against BBI, neither am I for it, but there are things which are eating us Kenyans slowly by slowly. In fact, our money is getting finished. Health has been interfered with, and we are going to die of diseases which are curable. Because as my friend from Nyeri chat said, that report, even though we have not accessed it, is shocking.
True.
Now, if I want to finish, let me say this. Eric, City, and Ind, what we need in this country now is a set of ladies and gentlemen who will come out and say, politics aside, let us face reality. Who are these people in the private sector that are milking the Kenyan cow dry? And speak strongly and in fact call for crowds, not crowds for BBI or anti-BBI, but crowds to demonstrate against what is eating our country. So that if we go to the streets and it becomes some sort of political movement, some of these things will either be got rid of, or some will hibernate at least so that we can survive for some time. Finally, Eric, if you will allow me just one thing. There's one thing that really hurts me, that I see two people today in the names of my former mentor, Raila Amolo Odinga and Kenyatta, pretending to have got into some handshake and calling it BBI. What BBI are we talking about if things are getting stolen? And by the way, were there elections in the first place? Can we have Mutura and his friends stopping following these guys to come out and save our economy, save our health sector, and save us? We are ready to join in the streets. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Irongo Amos. Have a good day in Kisii. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, 27 minutes to 10. Time for us to take a break, see what's happening on the roads, and then we take more of your calls, 0719-012-600. What is your reaction to this report by the Senate committee that is investigating the managed equipment service? And it has come out to say this, from the very onset, was just a criminal enterprise designed and executed to steal from the public. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz,
traffic,
neo.
seems to have gotten disappeared for most parts of the city. If we're looking just in Nairobi this morning, inbound on most parts is all right. Outbound also not so bad. Mombasa is where we're probably going to see a lot more traffic on the road today, in and outbound throughout the day because of the construction that we see, and also Jogo Road coming from industrial area, joining with what was Lunga Lunga and Likoni. Since that has been closed for now. We're not sure when it will be opened, but it looks like we're going to have to keep using alternates until that actually happens. Everywhere else seems good. Officially out of traffic hour. It shouldn't cause too much in terms of a headache later on. In case it does, before we out of here, Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
So here's
Nairobi.
some of those counties, though, and this is the other issue that we can raise. Some of those counties that have not put this equipment to use simply because of connection to power. Is that a strong enough argument by that governor to say that, you know what, I have this particular equipment at the Makindu level 4 or level 5 hospital, I'm not sure which is it, but the reason why it's not in use is because we don't have access to
phase 3.
Three-phase
power.
Phase 3.
to three-phase power connectivity. Really?
Yeah, you want to think about by the time you're
Makindu is not so far from
it's not so far from the center.
From the center,
as it
really.
were.
Yeah. What efforts have you made to make sure that this equipment is actually put to use? Because already, okay, it's here. And you're saying it's in cartons because you have not done this and the other. What have you done?
You think that is fascinating? What about the governor who had a problem with where to put 200 beds?
Yeah.
Said, okay, we understand.
The beds are coming.
But 200, where are we going to put them now? You really don't know how to respond to such a thing. Because this same government, that same county government, allocates money for ensuring that they have health facilities.
Yep.
And the national government themselves had endeavored to ensure that there was money for health facilities.
Yep.
The actual construction. So when someone makes that statement, what exactly are you supposed to understand? And then having understood it, how are you exactly supposed to respond? I mean, in all sincerity. I've often wondered what it is that happens to Kenyans, or is it a human thing when they get to positions of authority where they feel there's little need for accountability? Something goes wrong. We were talking about dementia earlier on. Clearly, this is dementia in operation. The very promises that they made, the things that they said they would do, that goes out of the window completely. It's like it's forgotten.
You know, because it has happened with such regularity and over such a long period of time, then I do think that it wouldn't be a bad idea, kind of like what Wilberforce said, to have it looked at. Because there's a problem. Because it's across board, it happens all the time, and it has happened for a very long period of time. That you want to go in doing the same thing, trying to sort out the same problem with the same method. You've seen it has not worked before. It cannot be called anything but madness.
Total, absolute madness.
It doesn't make sense. So I think it actually might be prudent
to study.
Yes, honestly. No. Seriously. To be prudent to study exactly what happens, because then it could give answers in terms of, all right, this is what to expect to an individual. This is likely to happen. And so then make your decisions wisely. Because you've looked for other kind of explanations. Oh, moral fabric out the window, greed. No,
people should introspect and understand themselves better because these people are a reflection of
they're a
us.
reflection of the society. No. Or maybe, somebody grew up from poor background and when they got there, they couldn't. But no. That doesn't make sense either, because you have people who've been from poor backgrounds and didn't steal, right? So there's got to be something else.
Actually, the majority don't steal. It's like saying that they're criminals.
Yeah.
In any community, they're a minority. They're not a majority.
Exactly.
Yes.
But across board,
in this country where we
across
are right
board
now
in
sitting.
government, they are the majority.
The criminals are still a minority.
So let's look at all our elected leaders. The majority are those that don't steal.
The majority are those who don't steal. Yes, I stand by that statement.
Okay. Okay. Zachary.
If you want to nitpick and talk about opportunity, that's a different discussion.
Hi.
Which is all stealing. Good morning, Zachary.
Oh, good morning, guys.
How are you?
Morning, Zachary.
Oh, morning, Marim. I hope everyone has had a nice weekend.
We're still waiting
No,
for you.
our weekend was okay, but it would have been okay if that little matter we discussed on Friday had been looked into. Remember the matter of the check?
Let me tell you.
Yes.
Now, when somebody starts talking like
The
that, just
issue of
know,
sharing whatever was in the check ended acrimoniously. Because Waithera demanded a larger share because, she takes care of me. She reports everything to me. So she demanded that she be awarded a higher percentage, yeah?
She needed to be a recipient of a larger sum.
Yeah, and then the mother asked, who are you in this house? Who are you coming in this house? Yeah?
Zachary, hiyo ni Kiswahili. Wachana na hii story. Let's just move on.
Zachary knows we're not going to. The moment Waithera's name is mentioned,
Yeah,
we are not
this
going
is
to
it.
inquire further, so we
Kiswahili
won't.
hapa.
Twende mbele.
Let's just talk about managed equipment scheme.
Yeah, so you guys, you are having a good discussion. And the mine is very, very, very little. Yesterday, I was watching. I invest so much in getting information, yeah? And yesterday, as I was now trading, going through the internet, I came across 2 videos. And they are going viral. I don't know whether you have seen them, but let me just describe them. In one video, a young Kikuyu girl or lady, let me call her a lady because she is over 18, yeah? Is telling people how Nairobi is. And unfortunately or fortunately, she's talking in Kikuyu, but I'll try to translate what she says, yeah? She is telling people, okay, you guys, if you want to come to Nairobi, there is a chance for you. If you want to be a smart person, there is a chance for you. If you want to be a twilight girl, there is a chance for you. Even if you want to be a this, there is a chance for you. We shall accommodate you, okay?
Yeah.
That is what she says. And I liken that one to Kenya. That anyone who is listening over the world, there is a chance for you in Kenya. If you want to be whatever you want to be, if you want to be a fake prophet, you will still get followers here.
There's space for you.
Oh my goodness.
So, okay, the other video is a person who is related to you guys, because I think one of these guys who have got their YouTube channels and they call them TVs. I don't know. I was also planning to start one, yeah? The Waithera is going to now guide me on that, yeah? And it happens in Mombasa. And it was somehow at the dusk, during the dusk hours, yeah? So a very senior guy is seen next to this blogger. Let me call him a blogger. And the way he reacts, I do not think if he would react that way, even if Jesus came next to him. Why? He is emotional. He's lost of words, yeah. And that is a situation.
Oh, you're speaking of the video from a gentleman in Mombasa who came across the president.
I never wanted to mention that name because, I'm not the Giza and I know what mentioning that word could do. You ask him, Warim, yeah? There are some things you don't mention in this country, yeah?
Yeah.
But let me say it's like you saw the clip, yeah?
Yeah, now, the young man is excited because the president has actually given him an interview.
Definitely. But then what...
Are you saying, do I understand you say that you can't mention the name of the Pope in this country?
The Pope or what?
I'm joking. Please carry on.
What's your point? What's your point, Zachary?
My point is this, Mr. You guys, the panel, yeah? The panelists, yeah? Look at that. Okay, consider the first clip that I watched in Kikuyu that I have translated to you. You are going to see it is going viral, yeah? And then come to see these two guys. One of them is the person I can't mention, and the other guy is just the, our Jiko there trying to make out a living, yeah?
Yes.
A blogger, yeah? Now, look at the gap. Look at the gap. The way that guy reacts. I hope you, Eric, you saw it. That shows where Kenya is. That so many of us are hopeless that we are even ready to worship our fellow human beings in Kenya. Because, Mr. Eric, yeah, hello?
Yes.
What I deduced from that clip is that, I mean, this young man, because he said that that person promised him to support him in whatever he's doing in his channel, yeah? That is the situation that we in Kenya are. And let me
conclude.
Let me conclude by saying this. I revoice the words of Mr. Mutura Kilonzo, that it is up to every one of us, the voters, including me, yeah, to introspect and ask ourselves, do we want to put ourselves in places whereby we are ready to even be pushed so much hard by our poverty that we are even ready to worship our fellow human beings? And I hope every one of you is going to actually propagate that message and have a good day, is it?
Have a good day, Zachary.
Thank you.
Tony.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you? How is Rongai today?
Yeah, it's good. No, I can't complain much.
This is Ongata Rongai again, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, hello, today I'm a very sad Kenyan.
You're sad?
Yeah, I'm very sad.
What's the cause of your sadness?
We are in an economic quagmire, social confusion and decay. And these guys are not seeing it. No one is seeing it. This rot is so deep that the executive, legislature, the judiciary, all are sleeping in the same bed. And also the opposition. You see now, it's like we are going on a downhill trajectory. And it seems the government is being auto-controlled and thereby affecting all of us. There is constant manipulation. These nonsensical realignments, theatrics, every day we wake up to this scandal, this report. You saw what happened in Pumwani, just these simple things. And these guys are continuing to do what they do best, steal from Kenyans. It's like the government itself, like a marriage that has hit rock bottom. Nothing can save them. The DP and the president, they were elected, both of them. But now look at what is happening. They are trying to tell us, like, now if I come again, now we might come up with something different. I don't think there's anything different in our politicians. Kenyans are suffering, feeling like slaves in their own country. No one. The youth are suffering, no jobs, stable economy, extremely high cost of running these businesses. It's so sad.
You're really sad, Tony. What is the way out of this? What do you propose as a solution?
We are the problem. You see, we are the problem because at every election we are given the chance. But the problem also is that I don't know if we really do elections. I don't know if we really elect these leaders. Is there a possibility that the elections are always rigged? I don't know.
When you vote, what are you thinking, Tony? When you go to the ballot, what is in your mind when you put your vote through?
You see, I voted, and I'm always that guy. I'm a Luo. I'm a proud Luo. But you see, I always try to vote for someone who will have the interest of Mwananchi. But every time we try that, these people that, I don't know, they get in there, then they get the disease. Like, the disease is very infectious.
You're sounding really frustrated.
Yeah. You see, it's like a disease. Once you get in parliament, you change, you forget everyone, you forget everything. Now it's only you. You work out for your family, nepotism, tribalism. It's so much.
True.
We need something new. We need something new. I don't know if it's a revolution or what, or a movement, but we need something new.
Keep getting
Nothing
sad.
is happening.
And as you are this sad, maybe it's about time that start thinking back into what would the solution be. How would Kenya look like if it was going a different direction? And maybe you can be part of the solution.
I want to be the part of the solution. I want to be part of.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank
Tony.
you very much, guys.
Have
Thank
a
you
good
so
day.
much,
Your show is awesome.
Asante.
Sawa.
0719-012-600. 1971 Ndegwa Commission report looking at public service and how to ensure that you have a vibrant public service that serves the people well. This is the one that now said, if a public servant wants to conduct business, not with government, it does not say with government, just wants to open a butchery so that it can supplement their income, it's fine. If a public servant wants to run a matatu business, it's okay. If a teacher decides to run another business, it's fine. Did that report talk about conflict of interest at any point? It was assumed that other laws that deal with conflict of interest would come into place. I'm raising that issue because we see that a lot. There are people who are working in government, working for government, who are doing business with government, starting from junior officers who supply paper.
And it's not frowned upon because it's generally accepted that this is all right to continue.
Yep.
Right?
Junior officers who sell milk to the office, and then they're the tea ladies, and they're the ones who actually make tea, or they're the ones who... Going all the way to members of parliament, who now we're discussing, when we talk about the COVID-19 procurement, names of members of parliament
turning up in these reports.
Turn up in such reports.
Yeah.
Even in conversations. And a certain company has links to a sitting member of parliament, and that sitting member of parliament is the one who's going to be investigating this and calling it a scandal. Do you expect it to bear any fruit? When you have MPs who are basically gatekeepers for their buddies.
There's no way. I mean, it's just like what Mutula said. It's like everybody is in the same bed. Because that's what you're doing. How do you get somebody to check somebody else who was involved in the process? Or would you then say, well, since I'm in a position of oversight, I'm going to be able to basically divide my mind and not deal with the fact that I also run a parallel business, but I'm just going to be able to be independent. I will be as unbiased as possible and make sure that, I judge this thing fairly. It can't.
The argument that they prefer, they usually come out and
it's
say...
It's like washing your hands with muddy water.
I sit in the transport committee. I don't have any business, any transport-related business.
Sector. No lie. It doesn't work.
My businesses are in health. I sit in transport. So it's okay for me. I can actually sit and conduct hearings in the transport committee and investigate matters of transport. Because my business is health, or my business is I've been contracted to supply bitumen or others for road construction.
Conflict of interest does just that. It provides a conflict that you're not able to then reconcile with. You really can't. No matter how thin you try to slice it, it would not be possible to say, really, it's okay. We're able to separate ourselves from this and deal with this judiciously. You can't. So I think it's got to be a position you take to say, you know what, I'm entering into this position, whether I'm being called to the public service, whether I'm being called to governance by way of election, whatever it is, that you make that decision and say, okay, you know what, I need to understand that I'm serving my country. Anything else that you want to do?
When people talk of the Ndegwa Commission, what I think sometimes is not brought to the fore is that you see the same process that the BBI went through, and the same process that other commissions have gone through, going around the country and gathering information. They did the same thing. And they also sworn in by the then Chief Justice, Kitili Mwendwa. Okay? Now, we've correctly surmised that the understanding was that you would observe all these rules, that there'd be no conflict, that you'd declare, the key thing is here, declaring. If you work, you declare. This is my interest. These are the companies that I own. This is the business that they do. So it is known. Now, once it is known, then the issue of, the conflict comes in the office you hold, the influence you may have, all right? Now, all these things are supposed to be adhered. Now, whether this particular report gave details as to how you could avoid that, I don't know. Because once that bottle top was removed, the genie was out. Because I don't need to have the company in my name, do I?
No, you don't.
You don't even have to
No, you don't. Your wife and your son could own a company that is supplying meat to Kenya Meat Commission.
Yes.
But, that's not you.
And my wife has a name that is very separate from mine.
What else do you need?
Complete different identity.
that genie, unfortunately, you know, like, like with most commissions that we've had, for instance, we've had one commission, the Ndungu Commission. The Ndungu Commission, that is one commission that hasn't actually seen the light of day.
Till
not,
tomorrow.
not really. It has seen slivers of light, but never quite the full glare of it.
Full glare, yes.
And the reason is because the things it suggested and things it brought out, unfortunately, people are not ready to handle. Now, once that particular culture, remember the other argument they had was, you know, this old system that we had fitted the British, where a civil servant was just a civil servant, okay, and didn't need to get involved in all this. But the truth is, other circumstances prevailed. They talk about low salaries, but salaries were low anyway in those times.
In all cadres.
No, and civil servants were given houses. It's not as though they were an impoverished lot. Actually, they were the better paid members of society.
Yeah.
People prefer to work for the public service as opposed to the private in those days.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, whenever one looks at anything and considers that human nature would take precedence, you're making a mistake. That's why we have laws. Human nature will focus on self-interest.
All the time.
All the time.
Yes.
Let's go to Nyeri. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, Latif.
How are you today?
Very well. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Simon.
How are you today?
I am fine, thank you. And about yourself?
Well, quite disappointed that Mutula Kilonzo could get surprised about what is happening. And all along, we've been having these things happening. If I may take you back to history, 1975, you are talking about the Degwa Commission. That is why I'm taking you that much back. You remember the Chebukube?
Coffee.
Yes. That was the first. That was probably the first scandal in this country. Then came YK92. That was another scandal. Then we came to We came to Goldenberg, Anglo leasing, NYS1, NYS2, KEMSA, and many other in between. Then this is a medical scheme. Why would someone get surprised?
That we haven't changed.
In fact, we instead of getting surprised, we should be getting tired. Yeah, you are asking about the solution that we should have now.
Yeah.
And the main solution that we should be having now is that the apex leader should be in a hurry building a bunker so that he can sort out the Kenyan problem like the Singapore one.
How so?
Because if he fears if he fears the rascals and the scandal masters, then he will have to regret when an uprising comes up. Ya Mswahili alisema ukistaajabu ya Musa utaona ya Firauni.
Yep.
This is where we are heading to now.
To the Firauni phase.
And yes. If the leader doesn't wise up, I'm telling you, this is what we are going to do. This is where we are heading to.
Wow. Thank you very much, Simon.
Yes.
Have a good day, Nyeri.
And have a good day too.
Asante sana. You know, like Mutula said, this is a conversation that must remain right up there.
Boiling.
Yes.
It has to.
Otherwise,
it will be another thing that will
when people
drink water.
When people talk of Singapore, they talk of the former president, Lee, as though he was alone. No. Remember, these people had been exiled in Malaysia. Okay? He wasn't alone. He had people with him. And these people were resolved. When they came back to Singapore, they were resolved. And they were resolved that this country of theirs must change and must be better. There was the resolve, what we call the will.
Yep.
And you saw that will to the point where he actually left office and said, you know, folks, this is what we need to now do in order to move to the next level. We've done our bit, okay? But the people taking over must understand that this job requires certain things, and you must improve on what we had.
Yep.
But the ground had been set, the structure had been set, it was moving forward. And we are unfortunate that the structure we have is one of theft.
It's just perpetuating
yes,
theft.
it predominates every aspect of our lives.
Unfortunately, is that when people decide to do something about it, that the action they may take would not be so palatable. Unfortunately.
Remind us today's proverb as we conclude, CT.
Do not follow a person who is running away. Really very simple.
Straightforward.
Straightforward.
Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Signing off is CT Muga Wamashati Nduoko and Eric Latte. Well, between now and 3 o'clock, of course, it's uninterrupted music, and then Monique will be here to take you home. And thereafter, the adults in the room. Good morning. It's now 10 o'clock.